For centuries, poets and politicians alike have been using dawn as a metaphor for opportunity, renewal, and hope. And so it is, as the sun rises over the 53rd running of one of the greatest sports car endurance classics in the world, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, kicking off the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship for 2015. Hello fans, welcome back to Fox Sports 1. We'll be taking you now right through the finish of the race a little after the 2 o'clock hour Eastern time this afternoon, and then hear from all our winners. But we have a long way to go. Nearly 17 hours into this race with a full 7 hours still to go. There you see the leaderboard. The Ganassi Racing Team, Scott Dixon and Scott Pruitt in the pair of cars leading the way in the overall. Hi everybody, I'm Bob Barsha along with Justin Bell and newly minted Hall of Famer Tommy Kendall. It's been an amazing race thus far. We'll get you up to date on all the highlights in a moment. But at this point, Justin, everybody's looking ahead to the 7 hours remaining in this race.
Yeah, you know, when we woke up this morning, we get an update on what's been going on, and the strong stay strong. The ones with the preparation, it's not luck that Ganassi's out front, that the Corvette's running so well. We talked all day about preparation, about it's taken them a year to get ready for this race, even though the season only ended 4 months ago. And when we're watching out there, you come back, it's not a surprise. You see the people leading that probably should be.
Well, you talk to UX Poetic about opportunity and so forth. There's stuff happens in the nighttime, and we're about to go to the highlights. What happened between the two factory Porsches? There are a couple guys that are not thinking about the future. They're wondering if they're ever going to drive again because it's a stunning incident between the two factory Porsches, but that's the nature of this stuff. They were so flawless last year. This year they'd like to do over.
Well, let's wait no longer. Let's get right to the highlights. We left you at 10 o'clock Eastern last night, just as the parties were beginning and the fireworks were popping. And we saw plenty of fireworks on the track as well. When we left you, the number 10 Konica Minolta Corvette DP for Wayne Taylor Racing was leading. 10th anniversary of team owner Wayne Taylor winning the race. Defending race and series champions, the number 5 Mustang sampling car. Problems on the racetrack, but the team was able to work out the issue and get them back before the restart.
Quickly we found that the connector for the fuel pumps had disconnected. So we reconnected it, but those they're always very reliable, so we're not sure if we're going to have to get back in there and tape it up or replace it.
Moving on to our number 10, the 02 of Kyle Larson, in the midst of a 3.5-hour stint. A super job as he tracked down the 10 car on track, took over the overall lead. One of 42 lead changes we've seen thus far in this race. But the number 10 fought back and was the leader at the 12-hour mark, so they swept the first 2 increments of the Patrón Cup. Meanwhile, a few minutes later, speaking of Patrón, David Heinemeier Hansen stalling off track, bringing out another full course caution on the restart. Scott Dixon in the 02 car for Ganassi, who had just started a stint, was on the button past Taylor to move into the lead. Number 60, John Pugh, the pole-sitting car, put there by teammate Osnegri, got into the tire wall in the infield hairpin. They've been struggling to get back. The GTLM battle has been terrific all race long thus far. The top 7 cars running nose to tail for much of the night. The number 62 Ferrari, Pierre Caffer, passing Wolf Hensler here for the class lead. But problems for the 24 BMW.
Well, it looks like on a restart, John got hit from behind by a GTD car or something, and when he spun, got hit again in the side, and it broke both the right side suspension. In the front, pretty heavy damage, dented the exhaust a little bit, but really just heavy right side damage.
Well, the BMWs were not alone. The race-leading, or class-leading car, Pierre Caffer, also in the pit.
I lost some power on the straight to the bus stop, and it was a strange noise in the engine, so I decided to pit straight away. Unfortunately, we cannot fix this problem, so we have to stop.
Engine issues for the Ferrari. That handed the lead to the Corvette duo, the 04 and the 03, who've been there or thereabouts all day long on board the 911 Porsche of Mark Lieb that was following the number 007 Aston Martin when collected by his teammate, as Tommy mentioned earlier, Earl Bamber, who lost control trying to avoid hitting the two cars under braking for the West hairpin.
It seems what was reported to me is the Aston Martin closed the door or made it narrow for the 911, and basically that meant that the 912 misjudged going into the corner and went off onto the grass and collected to the 911 going into the next corner.
Meanwhile, among the Corvettes, Ollie Gavin, who put the number 4 car on pole, was leading until he suffered a tire puncture. That handed the point to the sister car, the number 3 vet, in the hands of Jan Magnussen, who then had a great battle with the other BMW, the number 25, in the hands of Brazilian Augusto Farfus. The Prototype Challenge class. Last year, the Core Autosport number 54 won this race, won the class championship, and they are in the lead handily. Colin Brown passing Alex Popoff down the backstretch for the lead, and they have been leading that class since that point. The GT Daytona class, the biggest and often the most competitive in the race, has certainly been a battle. American Ben Keating and the number 33 Viper lapping the number 58 Porsche of Patrick Dempsey, but there was little contact there that put him on the edge. So there you see the time remaining in the race, 7 hours, 4.5 minutes. Now here's our Continental Tire race recap. Current leaders in class, Tony Kanaan for Chip Ganassi Racing, Colin Brown in the 54 Core Autosport PC car, as I mentioned, Antonio Garcia in the number 3 GTLM Corvette, and Jeff Siegel in the GT Daytona class. 43 lead changes, 13 cars officially retired of the 53 starters. Now let's get down to the pit lane and meet the first of our pit reporters on duty right now. Here's Jamie Howe.
Good morning, Bob. You mentioned Tony Kanaan leading in that number 02 machine from Ganassi Racing. That's due to the pit sequences. We did just see pit stops from the number 01 with Joey Hand behind the wheel, as well as the number 10 from Wayne Taylor Racing with Ricky Taylor. And so we're looking for Tony to make a pit stop coming up here soon. But you also mentioned Colin Braun leading in the Prototype Challenge category. They just made a pit stop. Colin just got in the car, so he's a fresh driver, got a couple hours of sleep. He's ready to go out there for the sunrise hour. However, he did say overnight it was not a clean race for them. They had to make 2 unscheduled pit stops to repair tire damage and 2 punctures. Last year, they won this race, and that one was easy. This year, they're having to earn it, so we'll see how that race unfolds. For more on the GT storylines overnight, here's Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jamie. Well, Bob, you mentioned this big battle in the GTLM class. And of course, the Corvettes are both up there, but so is the 25 BMW. At the wheel at that car at the moment is Bruno Spengler, the 2012 DTM champion. He's never raced at night before. He's going to get out soon. I look forward to talking to him. Of course, looking after this squad is the famous Indy 500 winner up there, Bobby Rahal. He's doing a great job. And also, Jamie, you mentioned the PC class. Also watch out for the BAR1 car. That went right back down the field, but then Johnny Molan put in a mega stint in the night, and that car has now moved up to 3rd place in PC and is challenging for 2nd. So lots of great action to come, I think.
No question about it, Andrew. So recapping the situation right now, the top 6 cars in the overall, all for the prototype class, running very close together. In fact, the top 3 all on the same lap, then a 2-lap gap back to the defending race champions, the Mustang sampling car for Action Express. In GTLM, the top 4 cars all on the same lap. Then the PC leader running 11th in the overall with a handy multi-lap lead over the 2nd place car. And in GT Daytona, the leading car is 15th overall. Jeff Siegel leading 7 GTD cars, all running very close together. In fact, the top 6 all on the same lap.
Tommy, other than going absolutely flat out, Tommy, the strategy for Ricky Taylor in the 10 compared to the Ganassi strategy when they have 2 swordsmen in the fight, are they able to work? I mean, there's not much different strategy you can pull off here. They've just got to go as fast as they can. But you do wonder if they can pace the number 10 and sort of just keep themselves clean. What do you think?
Well, this is where they start setting themselves up, because the drivers they put in and how long they run and so forth they're working backwards from the end of the race. We talk about it every year, and those plans have been in place. Some of them, I talked to Gary Nelson. He knew exactly what he was going to do on Friday. It was set. I don't know if other guys are making the decisions on the fly. Last year we saw Angelelli go in the 10 car, which we were surprised by. I think you'll see them setting up Jordan Taylor for the run. There's been nothing to choose between those three guys. Ricky had an incredible stint last night, and so that car has been a bit of a surprise for me. They didn't get much running in during practice at all because of that traction control issue, but they've, like, especially in the cool temperatures of the night, they were incredibly strong, even stronger than the reigning champions in the other Corvette.
And speaking of reigning champions, the number 5 is in.
João Barbosa getting behind the wheel. Did you I mean, never raced with João, did you?
Nope.
No. I mean, I raced the Mosler. You know, we won a couple of Grand Am races in it, and just a blindingly quick driver. And I was so excited when his career went on to this, and he capitalized on it in every way. Such a nice, gentle, quiet, super quick guy.
Well, and we've got a fire quickly put out.
That always just does so much for your confidence when you're sitting there about to pull out. But it's just a little flash fire, but it shows, it reminds everybody. I think it reminds us watching and those in the pit lane. Everything's great, steady, relatively calm, as long as things are going well in racing, and it takes half a second for it to all turn on its head.
Well, in talking to Gary Nelson about his drivers, I mean, he couldn't have been higher on João Barbosa. He says if you design a sports car guy, this is what you look for. He says he's incredibly quick, as quick as anyone out here. He knows exactly what he wants. He's able to communicate exactly what he wants. And, you know, just the balance between aggression and patience, traffic, etc. And so right there, you got to fire. I guarantee you his heart rate probably didn't even change. He's just so focused on the job at hand. He says they'll get it out, and he's on his way.
You had a look at the number 90, Mike Rockenfeller of Germany, currently driving. They run 5th in class and the overall. Here's the 02. Getting some brake work.
Yeah, we're getting to that point. Getting to that point when any little mistake can drop you back, not enough time to get it back. And Jamie, you're down there. What's happening?
Yes, this is the pit stop we were waiting for the 02. A little bit of a longer stop here, though. The crew paying extra attention to that right front brake area, as you mentioned, Bob. Tony Kanaan did stay behind the wheel of the car. All other service is complete right now. The issues overnight, right before we went off the air, they were just compounding for these guys, but they did such a good job not to lose any time. This one, though, it's under green flag conditions, so they're losing more time than they probably would have hoped to. A lot of crew members looking on here. That right front is now on. Crew gave him the tap to go ahead.
Well, I don't know who had the motto first, whether it was racers or the Boy Scouts, but be prepared is the path to success in racing. And we talked about it all race long. Both the Ganassi and the Corvette teams who had so many problems last year, they blamed a lack of preparedness. They obviously came loaded today. And here is the Michael Shank Racing Ligier Honda. The team really wasn't sure, having so little time with the car, whether they'd even get to the finish. Right now, they run a strong 6th. John Pugh at the controls. As the battle continues, wheel to wheel here at Daytona. Long co-driver, Jeroen Bleekemolen. That's the car they're going to be earning points in all year long. Bringing in the sister, number 93, just for the Patrón Cup long distance events. There's Mr. Sun, just peeking up over the horizon, out over the Atlantic.
Yeah, that was a real pity when we came back. I was pleased to see the Viper, right, going out there. Tommy, I mean, obviously you're as closer to it than I am, and they just look so solid. They've done such a good effort, and I know it was a big thing for the team. It was a very dubious, uncertain winter for them until the program came together. And
more drama as we go under our 14th full course caution of the race. This is Colin Brown in the PC class leading Core Autosports number 54. As you see, the left rear is down and he's limping around with a long way to go yet to get back to the pit. No, is he in the pit?
That's
lane?
his
He
second.
is in the pits.
That's his second left rear he's had this race. He had one last evening in the same place. We were watching him saying, "Don't go too fast, don't destroy the bodywork," and just go TiVo it and listen to what I said last time.
even with that, they told him, "Hey, be extremely patient. You've got 5 laps in hand. So even though this is their second left rear, they're far sight better off than the rest of their competitors. So just they'd like to probably get to the bottom of what's going on. There was an issue. There's been an issue sometimes at the backside of curbs.
Andrew's there.
I'm there, and I'm seeing the car accelerate back down the pit lane. Totally calm here at Core Motorsport. The tyre did not delaminate, so it kept the floor off the racetrack, so no damage to the back of the car. Just changed the tyre nice and calmly, and they're back on the racetrack. Really hasn't affected them at all.
That first one, I think, was the result of contact in one of the many scrums we've seen on a restart down into turn 1. Well, one way or another, they remain the class leader. Back to Jamie Howe now.
One car in GTLM that stayed in the top 3 to 4 in the overnight was the number 17 from Team Falcon Tire Wolf. This is the first 24-hour race that this team has competed in together. What's been the biggest difference for you guys so far?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you said, it's completely new for everybody here, for Derek Walker and for Falcon Tire. And we're still learning. We need to learn a lot since it's the first time at Daytona for Falcon Tire. And we came here last year, November, for a test. We came back for the Raw and now for the race. But it didn't look so good in the beginning of this week, but now we knew we will be better in the race, and now this is our strength. Team is doing good pit stops. The tire is very durable over a stint, and we can stay in the lead lap or in top 3. Sometimes we lead. It depends on the pit stops. But it's really going good. We changed our brakes in the night, so everything is perfect running, and now just cruising around and waiting what happens.
You handed the car over to Patrick Long. What condition is the car in at this stage?
It's pretty good. I mean, we didn't have any contact. Everything looks good. The car is great. The balance is fine, and he should be able to continue doing good lap times as he did in the night.
All right, thank you, Wolf. Andrew?
Well, I'm with James Gouet, the endurance man that's so successful with the Core Autosport team when he's drafted in. You came into this race having won it last year. What about this year?
I mean, up until now, we obviously have a bit of drama right now. We just had a...
That's me bringing you bad luck, yeah.
Yeah. So we, I don't quite know what's going on. That's the third flat left rear tire we've had. Unfortunately, just the timing of when it happened there, I mean, we would have been fine to get in and do our service and go, but obviously the pits were closed, so we've got to come in and do our emergency service stop at the end there. So we're kind of giving laps back right now, but luckily we've got a few in the bank, so it's still a long way to go, but fingers crossed.
James, you were in the car as the sun came up. What a feeling that is.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I've only ever done that once before, and it's a pretty special feeling, you know, to see it coming up over NASCAR 2 there. No, it's really, like I say, very special.
What's so special about this team that they can keep winning this class?
I mean, all the guys at Core Autosport, it starts at the top. I mean, the organization, the sort of the intensity, the dedication, how prepared they are. They've got a plan for everything, and they're just always prepared. And they never faces anyone when something goes wrong. They fix it, we move on, and we stick to our plan, and it's worked.
Thanks very much, James Gouet. Back to you in the booth.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Now let's recap the Patrón Cup standings after 2 increments. And the Ganassi Racing cars are tied for the lead after the 01 and the 02 finished 1-2 at segment 1 at 6 hours and 2-3 at segment 2. So they're tied with 8 points each at the top of the prototype standings. The Core Autosport team leading prototype challenge. GT Le Mans tie between the Corvette teammates. We've got a break coming up, and we'll be back. Pit stop's about to begin here under our 14th full course caution flag at Daytona. Series, you can see every race. We've got a little under 6 3/4 hours remaining here in the 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. There's the address again, foxsports.com/TUDOR. Go for it. Check it out. Pit stops beginning. Prototypes first. Here's Jamie.
And both the 01 and the 02 machines from Ganassi Racing are on pit road. Joey Hand will stay behind the wheel of the number 01. That's a regular service pit stop. Fuel, 4 new tires, and they'll send him back out. However, for the number 02, Tony Kanaan staying behind the wheel of the car. We saw that brake issue that they had earlier in that last pit stop. They're now going to address it. What they noticed was the brake duct actually came disconnected from the splitter. So the team taking this yellow flag time to go ahead and address that issue. They were seeing some temperature rise on their telemetry. So they're going to get this sorted. Joey's already back out. Team's at work on the 02.
Well, I don't know how much the airflow to the brakes was affected by that, but the temperatures these carbon brakes reach make that a pretty serious problem, I would think.
Yeah, so they could have instructed him to maybe dial a little more rear brake bias and maybe just instructed him to also just back the pace off a little bit. But this is a great example of kind of crisis management where you saw him coming in before, and it's probably a follow-on from that first time when they were back in the garage area with the splitter damage. And so this is the idea is, you know, they make decisions. Jack Roush was always a fan of stopping and fixing. If you're going to have to stop to fix it eventually, stop right now. And it was hard to do. But rather than running in a sort of compromised state for an extended period, but maybe they felt like they had a handle on it, and now that they've got the time. Now, one of the things you have to do here is you got to keep track of where the pace car is, and so someone on that team is dedicated to keeping track of the pace car to tell them, because in knowing how long it's going to take them to get to pit out before they close the pit exit with the pace car, and I guarantee you all that stuff has been scienced out.
And also the length of the accident or the incident that's out there, and obviously, as you know, it's for a stopped car, so that shouldn't take too long to clear up. Yeah, this 02, isn't it strange? We're just not used to seeing them have to come in and out of the pits like this. So it's just been a...
There's the number 5 Mustang sampling Corvette in the hands of João Barbosa. A lap down. Let's listen to the team and driver discuss how they're going to get it back.
Okay, the way this is going to work, we're going to get both our laps back. So we'll be staying out. We'll be on the lead lap here. All the leaders pitted. The 02 was the leader, but he's got an issue they're going to have to fix, so he had to pit. So they'll all come out behind us. We'll take the wave by. We'll go.
You were saying, Tommy, that the 02 car had somebody watching the safety car and working on strategy. Obviously, the guys on the 5 car are doing exactly the same thing.
And this is what we talked about with the new, more liberal rules on the second pass-by. And so what they did is they elected not to stop there. All the guys that were on the lead lap came in behind, and the rule is if the class leader is behind you, you'll get waved around. So they elected not to stop then, so he'll get waved around, and they'll, depending on where they're at in their fuel, he might either try to come in for a splash before they go back to green, or just hope you get a yellow.
As the sun begins to shine around this entire 3.5-mile, 12-turn racetrack, we'll take a break and return for a green flag, the Rolex 24. Back live at Daytona, the temperature may be 39 degrees out, but it's breakfast. Like that gentleman came prepared. People wearing shorts. He's optimistic about the temperatures the rest of the day. Fires have been burning all night long.
I just love that, the mallet and the sofa.
You know what was going on there? They ran out of firewood.
Yeah, they're just busting up their thing.
I'm sure they're not the only ones after a very cold night. Thankfully, without the monsoon rains we saw the previous evening, Friday night into Saturday morning. Still under our 14th full course caution of the race, but we are about to get a green flag. There's the Audi R8 LM safety car. We expect the lights to go out shortly. To the pit lane, and Andrew.
Yeah, Bill Warady just moving across the Pratt perch here to talk to me. Bill, what's going on with that 33?
We're not too sure right now. We're just have to diagnose it a little bit. It just kind of shut off. It has, adequate fuel pressure and battery volts, so we're just trying to figure it out. It's a real shame because, we had a super strong run in the TI Automotive Viper, but we have the other car running, so we'll see how it goes.
So a bit of a mystery, really.
Yeah, it's a mystery, but all the best guys are down there on it, so we'll get it fixed. And I'm watching telemetry, hoping to see it lighten, and we'll fuel it and see what we can do. But it's a little late in the race to make up 6 laps, but we're going to keep running as hard as we can.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Bill, and back to you in the booth.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Bill Riley, another of those veteran guys who's really hard to rattle. They've seen
Pretty
it all.
cruel, though, you know, and that's the electronics bring a lot of great things with them in terms of the flexibility and all the things you can do with the programming. But when things go wrong, it's hard to trace.
Richard Westbrook sliding there into the number 90. Visit Florida machine.
Now you see the belts. There's been a change where they banned the bungee cords that we've all been using for years, where when you release the buckle, the belts all spring out of the way. And so there was some concern as to whether those were putting some force in loosening belts and accidents and otherwise. And so they banned all of them, and there was such a outcrying from the teams. They let them put the ones back on the lap belts because, and it could real play. There's come into play at the end on one of these pressure stops. If you sit on a belt,
you can't pick it back up.
You can't pick it back up. So the lap ones are still there, but
uh-oh, we out of firewood, so they're breaking up the couch?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, they probably didn't want to take it home after the race anyway.
It's just racers' ingenuity.
It's just good to see that you didn't, you know, you're glad they got the sofa to focus on. You don't want to be their neighbor.
In the old, you've heard plenty of stories in the old days about when the cars were closer to production, about robbing parts off a car in the parking lot.
Right.
I remember getting a chuckle out of being in a restroom, and they had titanium urinals at Road America, and someone obviously needed a hunk of titanium and came in with their snips, and there was a big chunk missing from the titanium.
Titanium
urinal?
urinal?
I'm sorry, stainless steel urinal.
I was going to say.
Yeah, stainless steel urinal.
That would be one expensive facility.
That's only for Russian oligarchs, the titanium.
Yeah. Well, they're about to get green, I believe, any second as they rolling up onto the trioval.
Green.
There you have it.
Corvette is actually in the physical lead of the front of the pack as he pulls to the left.
GTLM Porsche down by the double yellow line, a little bit slow getting away. Prototypes swing out ahead of the GT cars.
Of course, this is the chance for the Ganassi cars to give Ricky a little bit of grief as they come through on that first step. Believe me that they certainly will, because any chance to try and rattle the youngster will be in there. Oh, and that's lock up under brakes there for one of the Ganassi cars. That
Tony Kanaan in the 02
went wide, yeah.
Just taken over. He had made the pass on the 01 and then got a little wide down there in the hairpin. Meanwhile, Ricky Taylor, the Konica Minolta Corvette out front. And back to what you were saying, Tommy, that team has had nothing but troubles electronically and otherwise all weekend. Very little actual practice laps. Wayne Taylor concerned about the state of the car as we went to race time, and yet here they are.
And look, we saw the vets racing each other pretty hard early, and it continues here. This Porsche obviously is not in the fight, having lost all those laps during that accident. But both the Ganassi guys going at it and the Corvette guys.
I mean, I guess the subliminal message would be, look what our teammates did to each other. Just imagine what I could do to you.
Well,
yeah, if you don't think I'll give you a bit of grief.
And look at Kanaan. And Kanaan is known for, in the IndyCar world, he prides himself on cold tires, restarts, the like. And it almost got him in trouble there, the international hairpin. But you can't be fast on cold tires without taking chances.
Yeah.
And look at him come after Ricky Taylor.
Everybody brings a different set of skills to the table in that 02 car. You also have Scott Dixon, who's acknowledged as a master of fuel conservation of the Verizon IndyCar Series. At one point during the night, he went 2 laps farther than anybody on fuel in that prototype.
Is he going to go the long way around? No, he isn't. Just decided to check it up a little bit there.
He's working.
Oh, that's so tight through there. It looks wide enough on TV, but it really isn't, not without a little bit of cooperation. He's just basically trying to set him up here, Tommy, keeping his mirrors full of red, white, and blue.
Well, and I'm not sure this is exactly what's going on, but it looked like the 01 let the 02 go through at the very start of that lap, and maybe they're going to split their strategy and say, hey, you go chase the 10 and push them, see if you can push them hard. And these guys, no one in this car is running for points, so they can afford to do that.
That's the point I was going to make about the battle between the Corvettes. You had Oliver Gavin, who's a season-long Corvette driver, and Ryan Briscoe in the other car, who's in there just for the endurance races. We're seeing the same thing with the Ganassi boys. Kanaan is not a season-long competitor, whereas Joey Hand in the 01 car is. And we'll probably see that all the way to the finish now as they try to get their season-long, their season regulars, if you will, to get maximum points.
Ricky's very good out of turn 6. He's able to, you know, it seems like that Tony, as is natural, the guy behind can break that little bit later, can pull his mark off what the guy in front's doing. Tony's been quite good on catching him there, but Ricky, these cars are pretty much even right now. Andrew, what do you got?
Yeah, well, I'm with Brian Alder. You know, John Bennett isn't the only guy in PC who drives and owns the team. Brian's the other one, and you've been doing a great job out there, Brian.
Yeah, the guys are doing great. We've been able to claw our way back from about 10 laps down. We're only 4 laps down now. Still a lot of racing left.
Yeah, you had an oil leak, did you?
Yeah, we had an oil leak in the first couple hours of the race, which sent us back to the garage. But that's all taken care of. The car's running really well.
You look a little young to be a team owner to me.
Well, I don't know about that, but maybe.
And of course you've got some seasoned pros in there, Johnny Molam and Martin Plowman, of course.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back in the car for a stint, and then we're gonna let Martin and Johnny finish the race.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something, see this?
Oh boy.
It's that time.
SpongeBob SquarePants has been a photo bomber throughout the entire race. The 16 car, meanwhile, there it is in the hands of Tom Papadopoulos, runs 3rd in Prototype Challenge, 14th in the overall. Brian Alder is a good shoe, the 2013 IMSA Prototype Lights L2 class champion.
I mean, this was such a scrappy category all through the opening 6-8 hours of the race, wasn't it? I don't know who wasn't hit, who wasn't spun, who didn't make an unforced error. It was PC certainly. Whoever wins this Daytona 24 Hours in the PC class is the survival of the fittest, because they've all gone through the mill.
Prototype Challenge cars, all identical Orica-built FLM 09 chassis, technically, all with the same Chevrolet-based V8 engines, all running on Continental tires. So it's right down to driver skill and car setup. As Justin mentioned, it's been very aggressive. Now, Richard Westbrook is in the 90. That's a PC car locking up ahead of him. Richard to the gas, and
This could be, they were also having TC problems, and that looks like TC has been shut off there. That would not happen with properly functioning traction control.
And 6 is that corner where you almost probably tune your TC to turn 6, because it is the one you wanted just on the edge, don't you, as you're accelerating out the car, just about to break away.
And that's one of those things. It's two things. It could be that they've switched it off because they're having problems, or it's coming in and out, and that's even worse, because you get used to leaning on it there, and that's one of those places you used to really have to manage that, waiting for it to jump out. In this area, you get confident, and it's so good, you just mat it and let the traction control sort it out. So be interesting to see if we can get some more info on that.
yeah, that 90 car is the hometown team. It's now known as visitflorida.com, but it began life as Spirit of Daytona Racing. George Fliss and the gang with a lot of supporters here on the infield at Daytona International Speedway. Ricky Taylor has a little bit of a gap over new daddy Tony Kanaan. He and wife Lauren welcomed their first child this month. Hasn't stopped Tony from being aggressive. We'll be back. Back live at Daytona. There you see the number 48 Audi in the pits. All Miller Racing. Christopher Haase at the controls. He had to pit because suddenly, and we're not sure how, the engine cover, the hood popped up and completely covered the windshield. So as drivers do in that situation, Christopher simply looked through the window net down at the edge of the track. A dead stick returned to the pits. Pilot terms. On board with Christopher now. Let's see if we can tell what happened. He gets off.
I think this was earlier, actually, when Renee Rast was in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it was dark, so he may have loosened the attachments. That was at about 6 o'clock this morning, and more recently, finally just popped loose and slid up. Lucky he didn't lose it entirely. And here's what Christopher could see. Oh, I can't stretch my neck.
What do you call the front hood when it doesn't have an engine under it then? Just the hood?
The hood.
Yeah, because as long as the mechanics weren't going looking for the engine, it was all going well.
You go to any service station in the country, say look under the hood, nobody's walking to the back of the car.
Well, you might in England because we're a little dysfunctional.
Well, while those repairs continue, We have a very special guest with us now in the booth, Grand Marshal for this 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and a winner in everything he raced over a long and varied career, the great German Jochen Maas. Jochen, welcome.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much.
How are you enjoying your weekend here as Grand Marshal?
I love it. Everybody is so kind, and everybody heaps accolades on me. I mean, it's quite amazing. No, it is. I think it's a wonderful event, and happy to be here. After all, I mean, 24 hours are so special, especially in Daytona. You know, when you look outside now with the sun coming up, it's actually, when you drive, quite a difficult situation sometimes, because your windscreen might be dirty and all that, and then, you know, with the sun in your eyes, it's painful.
You have a couple of podiums in this race in, I believe, 5 total appearances. Of course, a win in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. How do you compare those two great 24-hour classics?
Well, they're somewhat different. I find physically Le Mans can be a little bit easier sometimes because you have longer straights, so more time to rest a little bit. But I'm saying that, you know, you have the weather, you have possible fog in the night, and so on. So that makes it very tricky. And I prefer Daytona, really.
Jochen, it's for me, standing next to you, we talked about it last year when we were like at Pebble Beach. It was such a, when you were honored there too. I grew up with you as one of these manly father figures with my dad racing, and it sort of, it set a very high expectation for me of what a real racing driver should be. So it's great to see you up here. It should look like, yes. I mean, that was 20 years ago. That was more the looking like part. But now, as you watch it, it's so funny. Some things change and a lot doesn't. When you look at racing, it's such a human sport. And we've seen unforced errors during the night that have been going on forever, despite the technology, despite things. What do you think, as a former Porsche driver, the discussion in the pit box was like when the two 911s hit each other and pretty much took each other out? Would have been a pretty intense discussion.
I have been through this sort of experience at the Nürburgring when Stuck totaled 2 cars, mine and his. So this is never good. Obviously, you don't score points doing that. And you know, they have a very sort of specific way of looking at things like that. And once you're an established driver, you get away with murder almost. But then you have sometimes situations where you have the young guys who still have to prove it and this and that. And when they make mistakes like this, that's not good.
Not good for the resume.
Not good. No.
Now talk about you know, the changes. Justin talked about what's the same, what's different. This race has evolved. You know, the cars are so much more durable now. The driver used to have to manage a lot of the stuff that the engineers do now. Talk about, you know, some of the things you used to have to pay attention to in terms of nursing the car, or, whereas now they're kind of just, they await the instructions on how to reset the ECUs and so forth. How much of that did you have to do back in the day?
Well, quite honestly, here we could run pretty quick because it's not loading the car as much as perhaps Le Mans, because there you're constantly changing gears more than here. And that makes it difficult sometimes. You have to watch the pace. You're quite right, of course, with the suspension pieces, you know, the wheel bearings and all that. When you load the cars a lot in our days, the cars were heavier. We had to weigh at least 1,000 kilos, which means with the fuel and the driver and so on, it was always 1,100 kilos plus. So that made it very hard on the wheel bearings and, you know, the gearbox, the drive train and all that. And that you had to nurse a little bit. You know, the gearbox, the manual one, is still the same. I mean, I drove a car. No, sorry, it's not the same. No, they don't have the pedal shifts. So it is definitely easier on the material today.
Let's pause at the conversation for a moment and catch up with the race. You're watching the battle for the overall race lead between Ricky Taylor and Tony Kanaan. Joey Hand runs third in the 01. And Joao Barbosa, as Tommy predicted, has made up his laps and is now on the lead lap. Top 4 cars, all on the same 3.5-mile lap. Let's hear from the other Taylor sibling down in the pits right now with Jamie.
And if you watched our show last night, or if you followed Jordan Taylor on Twitter, you would have seen the picture of him in his tiger stripes, hoodie, pajamas. He's now switched those PJs for this Konica Minolta fire suit. Jordan, you're in next. You guys had electrical issues early. What condition is this car in now?
I mean, it's the best car we've had all week, including the test and qualifying. So it's in good shape. The guys got all the electronics sorted after the first pit stop, and since then we basically just been running laps, seeing how competitive the car is, and I think we've been in the top 3 all night long. So I think right now we're happy to make it to daytime, and we've got about 6 hours to go. So we got a few more hours to cruise around and stay on the lead lap, and then go fight for it at the end.
You guys have finished second a couple times, but it's been 10 years since this team last won this race. What do you guys have to accomplish today to finish on the top step?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been to, it's been a flawless couple of years, so knock on wood, this year's the same, but we just have to stay in contention right now. We're leading at the moment, but the 01 and 02 are pretty tough, but I think if we have track position come the last hour or two, we should be in good shape.
We'll see Jordan behind the wheel next. It'll be about 20-25 minutes.
Jordan Taylor is indeed a Twitter maven. By the way, all of our announcers are also on Twitter. Right now, Calvin Fish is probably still at brunch or on the golf course, but Chris Neville and Matt Yoakum, in addition to those of us on the broadcast right now, all on Twitter. Send us your questions or comments. We're chatting with the Grand Marshal for this year's Rolex 24 at Daytona, Jochen Mass. Jochen, a lot of Formula One fans listening in, I'm sure, and they'll kill me on social media if I don't ask you, what are your thoughts about the current state of the World Championship?
You're talking about Formula One?
Yes.
That's a difficult one.
Uh-huh.
It's very technical. It's too technical, really. It's beyond the understanding of most spectators. So it's actually a bit detrimental to the interest of the public, in Formula One. I think we lose out quite a bit. And I don't know exactly what we try to achieve doing that. So I hope they come down a little bit and make it more sensible again. So really you can follow what happens. And not just, one can put the wing down, the other one has to nurse his brakes because the rear brakes are all automatic. And as a driver, I mean, it must be pretty terrible. If it doesn't work 100% well, then it's you're totally at the mercy of your machine, and that's not so wonderful. No, I don't like it, and I think Formula One has to rethink. But we've been saying that since years, and it always went one way. But I think they have to retrack a little bit.
On board with the number 22, Cooper McNeil is about to get a drive-through for jumping the restart. There you see he's straight-lining the chicane, so he'll have to come to a full stop, which I guess arguably he did right there.
Yeah, that was
infinitesimally.
A penalty on a penalty. Jochen, just lastly, I said yesterday that I think it's really a great era for sports car racing, which goes back to 50s, 60s, 70s when people would drive Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3 sports cars, and now we're seeing the same sort of thing in that Rubens Barrichello here. We wouldn't have imagined that even a year ago. Do you think it's good for the driver as well as the sport?
I think it's fantastic that he's here. I saw him yesterday briefly, and Fisichella is here. A lot of guys who weren't Formula One. That's great. I think this is really wonderful.
It's good for everybody.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You made an argument, Jochen, that Formula One is maybe a bit too technical. How about that other world championship, the WEC? Has the hybrid technology and so far perhaps gotten beyond the envelope, if you will, for the fans?
Well, I think we work in a similar way to Formula One. I think we get too technical as well. And when the drivers have to nurse, their fuel consumption lap after lap, and within a lap they have to make changes all the time. It's a bit difficult to know why this has to be like that. Okay, it's an interesting development with the hybrids and so on, but but I think it should be done a little less complicated.
Well, we want to thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. We hope to see you at Victory Lane at the end of the day, Jochen.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Jochen Mass, great champion, 24 Hours of Le Mans winner, and Grand Marshal of this year's race. You saw that Cooper McNeil had no argument. He was down low and passing everybody on that restart, so he'll do a drive-through. Meanwhile, the 17 Falcon Tire team, serious oil problems. Is it over for them? We'll find out. There you see your 4 class leaders, and we'll be back in a moment to sunny Florida. At Daytona on Fox Sports 1 with Justin Bell, Tommy Kendall, Jamie Howe, and Andrew Marriott. I'm Bob Varsha. There's Earl Bamber in the number 912 Porsche. As we talked about earlier, that team had a very interesting overnight, including the 2 cars getting together at a high rate of knots. Well, tough incident for that team, but Earl brought it back with a left front tire puncture, and he's back on track.
I guess it's safe to say he hasn't been fired yet.
Just keep driving. Go right out the exit and all the way home.
And this, we saw that as we were going to break, the oil streaming out of the back of the Falcon car. And that just shows how cruel this race is. We just talked to Wolf Hensler, and things were going to plan. That car showed great pace in the cool temperatures of the night, and they didn't seem to be much of a hurry to get that car back. I noticed Patrick Long has not hopped out yet, but you know, this place is a crusher of dreams, which is exactly why it means so much to get that Rolex on your wrist.
As a famous athlete once said, if you just want to win a gold medal, run 100 meters. But if you want an experience, you run a marathon. And that's exactly what this race is. There you see the 10 of Ricky Taylor and the 02 of Tony Kanaan running 1 and 2. 14 of the 33 starters in the 2014 Indianapolis 500-mile race are in the race today. Here's a look at the IndyCar notables and where they run right now. Sage Karam and Charlie Kimball sharing a car. Same for Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan of the two Ganassi machines. Four-time Champ Car champion Sebastian Bourdais. Ryan Hunter-Reay, the reigning champion, is done. So is James Hinchcliffe. Ryan Briscoe in the GTLM Corvette. Simon Pagenaud in the sister car running 2-1 in class. Graham Rahal 6th in GTLM for BMW. They've had a long night. Townsend Bell's in a Ferrari and GTD running 2nd. Remember that he is on the defending race championship team. And James Davidson, who put the 007 Aston Martin on pole and had a heavy accident suffered by that car during the nighttime. They are back on track, but running 15th in class. Just trying to get to the end, because that in itself is a victory. There's Ryan Briscoe, currently 2nd in class. He'll be running with the Corvette racing team for the 4 Patrón Endurance Cup events. 52 hours, the 4 longest races on the calendar here at Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, and the season finale at Road Atlanta. Prototypes can pit, and most of them do. To Jamie Howe.
Both the 02 and the 01 from Ganassi Racing on pit road. This time they came in 02 in front, which is important because the last couple of times they've been the other way around, and the 02 machine has been slightly out of his pit box. This time both cars are on the marks. There is a driver change going on in that number 01 machine. I did not see, though, which driver was up on the wall ready to get in. So far, it looks pretty flawless. Number 10 car also on pit road, so we have our top 3 making their scheduled pit stops at the moment.
Not entirely flawless in the 10 pit. Looks like Jordan Taylor almost, was it Jordan in the car now, or Ricky still almost pulled away without the left front wheel fully attached.
That was, and I think the fuel might have still been attached. That was close to a disaster.
Yeah, that would be a swift and hefty penalty if you do that. But remember, the responsibility has just gone for those 10, 15, 18 seconds so firmly from the drivers to every member of those teams. And as we watch it again.
Okay, the fuel was out.
See the man on the hose, on the pneumatic air hose, looking back to the rear wheel changer, didn't look at the left front.
Well, unfortunately, the guy on the left front realized that even before the car went, what was about to happen, and he got it. He got the wave up.
Well, one way or another, both of the cars running 1-2 coming in were passed in the pit rotation by Joao Barbosa in the Mustang sampler, or Mustang sampling number 5 from Action Express. And Barbosa now leads over Taylor in the 10, Tony Kanaan in the 02, and Scott Pruitt in the 2nd Ganassi car now in the 01.
And it is the transponder hadn't registered yet. It is Jordan Taylor in the 10 car, so there was a driver change.
So the field will back up. The GT cars will make their pit stops. We'll have our final wave by and then turn them loose again. As we come to the end of the 15th full course caution in today's race. Have made their pit stops, so after a final wave by, we'll be ready for another green flag here at the 53rd Rolex 24 at Daytona. We're about 4 minutes away from the 18-hour mark, and there you see the number 17 Vulcan Tire Porsche 911 RSR. Their race is over. Let's go back and see what happened to them. Listen to the engine.
Started to make a weird noise.
Yeah, we saw crankcase pressure go to atmospheric.
I heard a new term that I love from the recent Elon Musk. They were trying to land that rocket booster on the thing, and he said we suffered an RUD, rapid unintended disassembly.
Sounds like a tire engineer.
Yes.
You don't call them blowouts. It is a rapid loss of pressure.
Gone atmospheric. There you are.
Gone atmospheric.
Yes. Yeah, that's a pity because I mean, we don't see that at all often. I mean, I'm trying to remember Falcon's last sort of breakdown. I mean, they've been so consistent, especially in these big races. And you said it right at the top of the show that they really could be one of the bullets in these endurance races for Porsche, like they were at Petit Le Mans. I mean, they clinched the championship, basically.
Won the manufacturers.
Won the manufacturers for Porsche. That's outstanding.
Well, there's a look at the year of the number 5 car. Now the Mustang sampling. Action Express, Corvette DP, Drivers' Championship, Team Championship, Manufacturer, and Patrón Cup. Here's more.
When we did the swap, if I'm not mistaken, it was on race 4 in 2013.
It's going to be Christian Fittipaldi and Joao Barbosa driving the number 5 for the rest of the season.
We complain about the same stuff, which is always good, you know.
When we did the swap, it was almost like magic.
Checkered flag awaits for Joao Barbosa and Christian Fittipaldi, winners at Mid-Ohio, first victory of the year.
But I think the main thing is even if we have different personalities, we push the team in the same way, and that really came out really strong.
Well, for sure, it was a very exciting year and a magical year.
We won the championship, the driver championship, we won the team championship. Now we're going to try and get the race win and the Patrón Endurance Championship.
Just a dream season.
Joao Barbosa will take Action Express to victory lane in the Rolex 24.
We definitely started on a very strong note, winning this race over here.
Christian Fittipaldi leading the celebrations.
We really felt like we were clicking really good through the whole season. Every crew member, every part of the team, every aspect, every department was doing their job, and the chemistry was really good.
In my opinion, the big turning point was the month of June and July. We went out and did a couple of tests, and we had a very strong second half of the year.
They've got the team championship, the drivers championship, also the Patrón Cup.
It's always good to win the first year of any championship, especially after all, with all these changes.
It's going to be very hard for us to duplicate what we did last year, but not impossible.
Quite a season last year. You heard Christian Fittipaldi refer to the swap. Those two drivers started the year with different co-drivers, one or the other of the Frizzell brothers, and it was during the season that they finally put Joao and Christian into the same car, and they absolutely clicked. Now let's hear from Joey Hand and the Ganassi team with Jamie.
Well, that 01 car, Bob, has been running really well throughout this race, but Joey, you say on that last stint it wasn't quite right. What was going on?
Yeah, well, we had pretty good 3 stints on the first 3 sets of tires in the dark in the early morning, just taking it easy. And we ran out front the whole time, and it was balance was okay, a little bit understeer, but this last set of tires just picked up a lot more understeer, and the car got a bit less racy, let's put it that way. But the guys are working on some stuff that we could change. You know, we still got a long ways to go here, and we can make changes and make the car better. So that's the next step of this. When the sun comes up, you got to see what your car is like, and then you can tune it a little bit to make it that racy ride you want at the end.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Good luck to Joey the rest of the way.
And they're going to have to do that because, you know, the way these races turn out at the end last year, the margin of victory in 3 of the 4 classes was just over a second. So you heard Ricky Taylor saying if we can maintain track position. You saw the battle to get out in front of the 02 car on the pit stop. So you really are going to have the speed in the car, and that's the first time we've seen literally all weekend that the 01 hasn't had an answer.
And they're going to be, like you said, they're backtracking it, back-timing it from drivers and everybody to come back. But look how close the overall margin of victories have been, Bob. That's record-breaking.
There was a time one of Hurley Haywood's 5 overall victories in this race was taken by 40-plus laps.
Wow. I lost this race by 22 seconds in the Corvette to the Corvette to the Viper. That was, and I just left Viper. That was like one of those. First
overall win by a GT car, matched by the TRG team in a Porsche in 2003, early in the Daytona prototype era. I believe those are the only, no, it was the third time it happened, a Nissan, and Scott Pruitt was in that car.
Yep.
Wow, what is happening there to Tony Kanaan, locking up the tires? He's done it a couple of times.
Well, you saw what happened on the last restart. He didn't have enough heat in the fronts, and it lit up as soon as he touched them going to the, and so he's trying to get a little temperature through the brakes, and they found that, oh wow, pretty good jump here.
Boy, oh
the
boy.
PC car.
The PC car giving himself a nice bit of clean air there, but oh, is Kanaan coming down the middle there?
So we've got a mix of prototype challenge, GTD, GTLM, and full-on prototypes down into turn 1 as we are back to green.
You can see Jordan definitely trying to make the most of the traffic there. He wanted to get ahead of the Viper, just to give himself a little bit of breathing room, and it has worked perfectly for him.
And you saw Kanaan be very careful and still got the fronts locked, and that's, you know, again, the traction control helps you coming out of the corner, but there's nothing except your feel in the brake pedal that'll help you going in.
Yeah, it looks just like a stable platform under braking, does it? The way it keeps on.
I think just trying to, the tires going cold, and you know the party line is that the DPs have a better time of it than the P2 based cars, but clearly an issue there. And Jordan Taylor, we saw when Jordan really had his big year, breakout year a couple years ago, was really, really good on restarts and those building a gap in the opening laps. This being an endurance race, but like he said, it likely will come down to a sprint. Oh, look at that.
Corvette.
That's not good.
Oh,
What's
no.
wrong? Left front.
They must have had some contact on that opening lap through the infield.
It's in the 4.
Fender
That's
rub.
the class leading car, Oliver Gavin, and this is a change of the lead as the BMW sweeps around.
Boy.
Or actually, I think Ryan Briscoe has, oh no, the BMW got around both Corvettes on that lap. Third when they came around start-finish.
It's Oliver Gavin, and it being the left front, he can see all that smoke.
Yeah, I mean, we said as you get closer to the end of this race, these issues are going to have a larger effect on you. And we're looking as they go through on the infield there. It's a tightly bunched pack, the BMWs, because he's sandwiched with the Corvette. Oh, Ollie just, well, he locked up the front right and slipped into the Porsche.
Issue we were talking about.
Yep. Trying to shoot that gap from on board the 4.
As they're heading up to turn 6 here.
Should try to go between the two cars.
Oh,
he tried to go between because he was already in trouble.
Yeah, he knew he wasn't going to woe it up.
He wasn't right on the car, so that just shows you how acute the issue was. You know, there was a good car link between him and the car in front.
Jamie's there.
We talk about the level of preparedness that it takes to be successful in this race. I was down in the Corvette pit, and as soon as they saw this on the monitors, we're talking 20, maybe 30 seconds maximum. This crew had their helmets on, their gloves on. They were ready for Ollie to hit pit lane. They're now diagnosing the issue, pulling some bodywork pieces off so they can send them underway. But this crew, they were ready, and they have all of the parts and pieces that they need.
yeah, they put all those pieces on with such finesse. They take them off.
Right.
With such urgency.
I see him trying to clean the bodywork so they can get good adhesion for that repair they're going to try to make.
Well, you just hope, you know, the bodywork where it fits there onto the splitter, you just don't want splitter damage, Tommy, because that's such a large piece underneath that that's a lot longer change. But it looks like it's just the front left nose panel there that
There's also an inner fender piece, so
which they threw out.
You're hoping the brake duct is still intact.
In the GT Le Mans class, there you see the biggest movers. Bruno Spengler, European-based Canadian, now running first in class in the number 25 BMW, up high, going around the GTD Viper. A year ago, those two cars would have been competing in the same class, but the Viper now running in GTD.
And that is the car that had trouble earlier, back out there, but a number of laps down. Mark Goosen's behind the wheel. It looks like it was 6 at the time. It's more like 17, 18 laps down now.
Yep, 10th in class is Mark Goosen's.
The 5, João Barbosa, it's just showing solid pace. I mean, when we came on air, wasn't it? I mean, it felt like it was laps down, and now it just in the space of an hour, because of the wave buys, it's been able to get itself back. And it shows all these top cars have that pace, but it's all about track position right now.
Still working on that Corvette. Of course, a big part of the design of these cars is where you put the splits and the body work, with an eye towards what you have to support, how you want it all to work together, and in the event of a crisis, what you have to change if something gets broken.
Now they're not just doing the minimum to get it out there. It looks like they're taking time to get it right, thinking, okay, listen, there's still almost 6 hours left with the new, more liberal wave around rules. Let's see if we can't get this fixed right and not have to come put any more attention and work on just recovering. Wow, that is, so at the same time, the first sort of weakness we've seen from Ganassi in terms of speed and these Corvettes that have been flawless all night. And just a moment's, I don't even want to call it inattention, but right. Just being caught out by the cold tires.
Just a bad break, yeah.
It'll be interesting. They're going to have to monitor engine temperature, water temperature, because that's covering 2/3 of the left-hand front air intake. So I hope that isn't an effect. I mean, they know better than we do, but
well, that's the beauty of telemetry. And I was thinking about it when Kanaan had the right front brake temperature. In the old days, if you wouldn't have been able to see that brake duct had come adrift, and it would have, when you would have found out is when it had become a huge problem. They were able to catch it beforehand. Same thing here. And the other Corvette close to some contact.
That's right. Ryan Briscoe going underneath that prototype challenge car, and the driver of the PC car didn't quite see him, I don't think, until he was fully alongside. Briscoe in the yellow Corvette trying to keep pace, doing a great job of it with the 25 of class leader Bruno Spengler.
Great to see the BMW out there leading. I just get the feeling that BMW have to have this strong, quiet, solid, not even optimistic viewpoint when they come into these races, because they just don't have the outright pace during practice and qualifying. They just have to dig so deep all the way through. I think that's where Ray Hall's experience and the way he leads that team, and you see it all the way through. I know Tom Pasinski very well, head of communications PR there, and he's at every race. Motorsport is in their DNA. We say that all the time. But I don't mean it lightly. From their road cars to their race cars, and the whole company get behind this North American racing effort. But they have to wait till the race to show what they got, and they got some good stuff right now.
Interesting moment there. You saw as Spengler in the GTLM. Oh! Damage.
Why did I even open my mouth?
That is huge for that car.
Oh, he went in a little deep, and you just get bitten on the other side. That's not the preferred line.
There's a reaction from the pit box. We talked about it yesterday. After those heavy overnight rains Friday night, the ground is damp. It's surprising.
Watch traffic on your outside there.
He stays down on the apron. He should be okay.
But that, the bus stop is so cruel. I said it last night. It's so easy. Watch him going in here. He dives out from beside the PC car. He's just a little late on the brakes, and he just
can't get it turned.
Started off so innocently and had such a.
The way these cars stop, that's become it's a decent brake zone, but you really push it in there and you turn in with a lot of speed. So he was trying to, I was just about to say the intensity is ratcheted up. The move he put on to get around the Corvette, and
yeah, look at him. He wants to try and separate himself from the Corvette. He knows he's got him under braking there. And you just get that compression as you go through the left-hander. And it's almost as he released on the compression, he just lost that little bit of grip. And he didn't want to spin into the wall on the left, Tommy, so he did what looks quite sensible. And look at the reaction from teammates. Well,
that all went wrong on the grass. He couldn't even steer enough to avoid hitting that Patrón sign. And then he went for the shortest gap of grass between that service road and the racetrack, but it was still so wet and soggy that he wound up doing an awful lot of damage to that car. Andrew.
Yeah, well, I'm with Augusto Farfus. Gusto here. All right, bit of a moment there for your teammate.
Say that again?
What do you think of that?
It's racing. I mean, he was trying to get by a PC. Very often it's difficult to pass a PC car, and yeah.
Bit of a DTM incident. A bit of a DTM incident.
What are you saying? He's here racing. He's a professional driver. He's not a DTM. We have seen so many professional endurance drivers doing worse mistakes. He was just trying to get by.
How are you enjoying this different sort of racing for you, Gusto? How are you enjoying this different kind of racing?
I enjoy a lot. For me, I have to get ready.
Oh, you've got to get ready. Okay, off it goes. I'm down the stairs. Quickly, that's what happens when you're right in the heart of the action.
Watch out, Andrew. He will run you over because he has to be ready.
And a fired up Ollie Gavin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, he brings up a good point about the PCs are kind of a thorn in the side of the GTLM cars because they run pretty close to the same lap times, but and so he really wanted to get by him here, and it bit him.
Well, that was the point I was going to make because we saw them up on the banking. A year ago, a GTLM car would just blow by a PC car, but those cars were given a bit more horsepower during the offseason. Now, as you say, they are very comparable on speed. He couldn't get by the PC car, and then he had to deal with them in the brake zone while watching the Corvette behind him, and it was a little too full of a dance card.
You know, they're just pushing so hard. This is back to, there's no coasting, there's no driving to any sort of strategy in terms of pace, saving the car. It's flat out.
More rear wing edge.
To the wall driving.
Let us know what you think.
With Ollie Gavin getting back by, that puts the Corvettes back 1-2 in GTLM. Well, let me check that. Yeah, I believe it will. Well, we'll check it when timing and scoring recycles. Augusto Farfus awaits his chance to get back into the now damaged BMW. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Just under 6 hours to go. 5 hours, 43 minutes. Welcome everyone. Brian Till along with Justin Bell, Tommy Kendall, and down in pit road, Jamie Howe and Andrew Marriott. You know, this race, we talked about it earlier, guys. It used to be that you just kind of endured, you short shifted, you waited, you were patient, you raced in the last hour, maybe last 2 hours. We just saw the mistake, and I'll call it a mistake because it didn't work out. If it worked out, we would have said it was a fantastic move, but you know, the mistake on the BMW's part there into the bus stop, that outbraking maneuver on the prototype challenge car that didn't work, and it just shows the risk that the drivers are willing to take. Bruno Spengler just saying, I got to get by because I've got this Corvette right behind me, but we still have 5 hours and 43 minutes to go.
I mean, in a great race, you make 1,000 moves that use skill, talent, judgment, and risk. And in a race that goes a little wrong, you've made 999 perfectly, and one goes a little wrong. I absolutely, as drivers, it's just what we do. And I brought up with you just before you came on, Brian, when Sage Karam made that amazing restart down up against the wall with millimeters to spare. If it had gone wrong, we'd have gone, oh, what a crazy young impetuous youth. As it happens, we went, what a hero. So we see it the whole time. BMW pushing hard. They're in the lead of the Daytona 24 hours, for goodness sake.
The one thing I'd say about racing, and even more so in a 24-hour race, it's the only sport that's truly cumulative. You know, the comparison I say, you can absolutely shank a drive and win the Masters. You can throw a horrible pass and win the Super Bowl. Here we saw with those Porsches, a split-second miscalculation, and it's over. And so now I think the BMW's only lost a lap, and we'll see that the car could well be in okay shape still. But it's the nature of this, and it used to be you could always err on the side of caution in traffic and so forth. Those days are long gone. They're talking about track position 6 hours before the end of a race. Namely, don't even lose the lead on a pit stop because you might never get it back. And it's the nature of the game has changed, and it's one of these things where you've got to execute at such a high level and all the time. You can't be conservative anymore.
My concern about the BMW was not the move where the tail came off, but when he bounded back through the grass. They cleaned everything up, but we know all of this grass grows in this fine, silty sand. That has packed that radiator. It may look clean right now, but I guarantee you back in the little grooves and the nooks and crannies in that radiator, there's a lot of that sand, and they're going to have to be concerned about overheating. But you can come back when you have problems in this event. There's still time. A car that's done just that's the number 5, Jamie.
That's right. Action Express taking no chances and keeping this team motivated. One thing that they have down here for this weekend are motivational signs that are posted all over their pit area. This is one of my favorite ones. There's a great quote on here from Vince Lombardi at the bottom. If winning isn't everything, why do they keep score? Reminding all of the team members that This is what's on the line. They're racing for a championship. Christian, you're going to be next behind the wheel of this car. The team has fought so hard to come back into this motor race. What do you as a driver have to keep in mind?
Well, there's still a lot of racing to go. I think we still have 5 hours or 5 hours and a half, and a lot of things can happen. At one point, we were 3 laps down. We managed to recover. We're not the quickest car out there, but we are very competitive. And now we're putting together all our efforts and forces, everything that we can do. So when it comes down to crunch time, we have a little bit more in the Action Express Chevy, and maybe we can give everyone else we can try our very best and duplicate what we did last year.
One of the other great quotes up here is from team manager Gary Nelson. Expect to win, guys.
Well, and they do, and I think that's the motto, that's the mindset that really turned this team around over the last couple of years. They do expect to win. They don't go to the race and go, well, we'll just see how many points we can get. They expect to win. You talk about crunch time. It was almost crunch time for Madison Snow in the 58. He had a problem down in the West Horseshoe. But you really have to have that mindset.
Well, you do. It's a great Lombardi quote. You know, a lot of people talk that our culture has gotten soft, and you know, the whole everybody gets a trophy. At Daytona, everybody does not get a Rolex.
Oh,
and so you know, it's that's a fantastic quote, and you know, it's zero-sum game. You know, there's only one winner, and everyone wants to be it.
Well, we talked about the problems for the 25. Let's check in with Andrew.
Here's the problem. Look, some grass. Now, Brian Till, I know, loves to mow his lawn. Well, this is the mowing that was done by my old DTM mate, Bruno Spengler. It's got the most marvellous smell about it.
How much sand is in that, Andrew? Is it?
None at all, none at all. There we are.
I mean, it's...
That BMW must be the most expensive ride-on mower around Florida.
It's nice to know you know your grass quality so well, Andrew. You should move to Colorado.
Oh, I'm not even going there. Thanks, Andrew. Here's the ride through the grass that we're talking about. And obviously those huge chunks of turf that are torn up. But it is that sand that's in it, like I said, that would be a concern for me in the radiator. And it'll be interesting if they send a crew member out there to replace the divots.
Yeah, it looks like Calvin and TK have been playing golf through there, doesn't it?
It gives you an idea of the strength of those splitters. You know, how much effort has gone into those. I mean, that just huge force, and that thing looks brand new.
But the strength of the front splitter. But were you surprised to see the rear fascia come off when he got up on the curb? It just pulled it straight off.
Yeah, no, it was.
I was surprised by that.
I was surprised by that as well.
And that rear section of bodywork, not only is it just the fascia in the back, but it's got an under tray to it, and that's going to affect the aerodynamics of this car. We talked about it last night with one of the Porsches. The air is not going to flow around the back or underneath it as well as it did before. Everything is designed to pull air, either go through the air smoothly or to pull air around.
Well, we're going to find out depending on how the car runs. I mean, the cynics in NASCAR, whenever something happens, it's like that was designed to come away. So whether they've wind tunneled it to find out if it's actually better without the stuff on the back, we'll find out. I don't suspect so.
Joao Barbosa leading in his Mustang sampling Corvette, but right behind him, you ride on board with Jordan Taylor. Jordan Taylor looking to bring Wayne Taylor Racing another win at Daytona. Back at Daytona International Speedway, Brian Alder having a problem in his prototype challenge car. He spun off the racetrack and now having a hard time getting it going again in this wet grass. The cars ride so low to the ground and create that friction. You get that wheel spin. Hard to get it moving. If anybody knows these cars well, it should be Brian. He owns the team that he's actually driving for. He's won the IMSA Prototype Light category for the last 2 years, the championship in the L2 category, and he's decided he was going to race here as a team owner. He's been around for a long time in the crew chief and team owner position, but this is his first go at the Rolex 24 as a driver.
That's a similar spot to where the BMW had its trouble. That's in the bus stop.
I think no harm, no foul in the end. I think he got away with it.
They were running third, and they're a couple of laps off of second, so they really didn't lose that much. And then you look down the order, the next car in line in fourth is a couple of laps in arrears of them, 10 actually. So not a big deal at all, but for Jordan Taylor, this is a big deal. He runs second right behind Joao Barbosa. How important is it for him to try to take the lead right now?
I mean, I think the way things are going, if you can, you do. And he built a little bit of a gap. The 0-2 was right there, but now he's got a slight gap, and he's really been attacking while he doesn't have to worry about the car behind him quite as much.
Barbosa in the lead, then Jordan Taylor, and at GTLM, it's the number 3 Corvette, Ryan Briscoe behind the wheel right now, who leads in class. Let's check into the Corvette camp.
It'll be Jan Magnussen who gets in the car next, guys. And Jan, as you watch on this race, this point last year, things were not going quite as smoothly. What difference has been made this year?
Well, obviously, we have a year's experience with the car. So far, been a lot more reliable than last year. I think last year we were already quite fast, but unfortunately not reliable. So this year it's been going fast all the time. We haven't had any major issues so far. So far so good.
As you get ready for your stint, at what point in this race is it time to start pushing and kind of throw caution to the wind?
Well, I think everybody in the GT class have been pushing since the beginning. That's what it feels like. I hope everybody's been pushing, because that's sure what it feels like. I think you got to get a little bit closer to the end before you start throwing caution to the wind. But you got to push. Everybody's so equal on lap times, and everybody's pushing super, super hard. So right now we got a little bit of a cushion. But that's the first time the whole race that we've had more than just a couple of seconds lead.
Thanks, Jan.
Talk about somebody that's pushing. Bruno Spengler in the number 25 BMW. We saw him with the problem in the bus stop. We just saw him get past Ryan Briscoe in the number 3 Corvette. That puts him back on the lead lap, according to my timing and scoring. So, I mean, one heck of a run for Spengler to get back and claw his way back up after the problem that he had in the bus stop. Timing and scoring still showing him down a lap, but he's gotten past Briscoe, so he had to have picked one back up.
Yeah, the best way to get forgiveness is to show excellence right now, I think. So he's motivated to right his wrongs, if you like. So he's pushing hard. The great thing is, it shows the BMW still got the pace.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're gonna get a view here on the banking, but obviously he had enough pace to get around the 3 car.
Watching the leaders work around the high side of some traffic. Remember, the Patrón North America Endurance Cup also at stake here, and on the line, points awarded throughout the event. This is the way the points stand right now after 18 hours in prototype. It's the number 10. Core Autosport just continuing to impress over the last several years with team championships, driver championships. They currently lead in Prototype Challenge, GT Le Mans, Corvette Racing, and GT Daytona. Bill Riley, after the factory SRT program goes away, focuses on that GTD program, and they are running strong here in the Vipers.
And that's the benefit of a 2-car team. They had the 1 car that had led and was so strong from the start and has had its trouble, and now the other one's right there to pick up the pieces. Now you got to give a shout out to the 22 that's running in second. If you look at the fast lap time, a full second slower than the Viper, but have managed through just being really tidy and neat to keep themselves in contention.
See the number 31, the Whelen Engineering Team Fox Corvette out on track. One of the NASCAR notables for the weekend. Running in that car, Max Pappas. He's not driving it right now. It's Englishman Phil Keen who's behind the wheel, but Max Pappas driving in the 31. Kyle Larson, Jamie McMurray in the 02, and Larson with a great drive in the middle of the night. We know Jamie McMurray's a pretty accomplished road racer, but Kyle Larson showing what he was made of. The 60 prototype, AJ Allmendinger, I'd call him a NASCAR, sports car, and IndyCar notable. You figure that he's won the Rolex 24 before. He's gotten his maiden victory in Cup last year in NASCAR. He certainly won in IndyCar races. Impressive guy, and we talked about Boris Said in the 97, the BMW. So
turned into a bit of a business mogul as well. He's a partner in the K1 Indoor Karting Centers. He's half owner of a BMW dealership with Rick Hendrick now. So old Boris has come a long way from the hair down to the middle of his back Corvette Challenge racer I first met.
Well, if I had told you that he would be in this position 20 years ago, you would have called me crazy, just like, I mean, you would have never thought, but you're right. He's parlayed his racing into quite the business empire. Andrew, what do you have on the 31?
Yeah, well, Phil Keane, you know, has been around a long time. He's in that car because he won a competition run by Sunoco. In fact, they've been running this competition about 6 years. So he won the special championship they run in England because he had a lot of success in the Radical SR3 series. But that was really a series he dropped back down to because Phil was one of the top GT drivers. I remember him winning, 7 or 8 years ago in Britain on a regular basis. He's one of those really quick drivers that got sort of passed over and has to spend most of his time earning money being a racing instructor. But here at Daytona, all of a sudden winning this drive has really showcased his talent, so maybe it will lead to something else.
Yeah, Phil Keane 4th in the British GT Championship last year. This is continuing to be a great battle because Bruno Spengler trying to do what he can to continue to work his way back after that mistake. He wants to make amends for it big time. And the BMW, at least the handling seems to be there with that rear fascia and that under tray missing, but still a long way to go.
But you know what he's looking for is that he wants to be track position in front of the Corvette. If there's another yellow, he gets his lap back and then it's game back.
Yep.
So this track position has a lot more.
Well, let's watch the top speed. Remember, the Corvette used to close up. We saw last night, kind of in the middle of the torque curve, and then the BMW up top really had big speed. But we saw he actually put a car length on the Vet in the kink, so the high-speed handling is good. Vet closing up a little bit. That probably the draft effect there, yeah. But that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they have certainly improved the top speed of the BMW. And you said it, Justin, Bruno Spengler, he needs to stay out in front. He gets a full course caution. He is right back on the lead lap. He's right there. He's picked up one after his mistake. Can he pick up another? It's Joao Barbosa who leads overall from Daytona. But Scott Pruitt in the 0-1 still hanging tough here at the 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Scott Pruitt, champion race car driver on the racetrack. And what's he do off the track? Well, he's a champion winemaker as well.
Between myself, my wife, the kids, we are very much involved and couldn't be more excited. Things have just taken off. We're currently the #1 red in all of California, not just Syrah, but #1 red in all of California. Last year we ended up #3 of all California Syrah for 2011 for that vintage. It's even more exciting the fact I do all the work. You know, I do all the winemaking, I set up all the fermentations. Again, the family's very integral on labeling and bottling and all that, but I'm hands-on, baby. It's ingrained in my soul. I mean, this is the way I've lived my whole life, and you can't help it. I mean, you're always going, oh no, I'm just gonna do it for the passion of it, gonna do it to do it. I know, that ain't happening. You're serious, you're hardcore. We've been very fortunate to have come out of the box with great ratings, and we continue to get great ratings along the way. Even more exciting is the fact when people try the wine, they totally dig it. They're like, wow, this is really good. And I think that's even more exciting for me personally, because when you can do something like that, it's a pretty exciting thing.
And he is so heavily involved. He worked with us a couple of years ago when we did a Le Mans broadcast and going to lunch talking about the winemaking, and he's just engrossed in it the same way he has been with his racing for all these years. I mean, I think Scott Pruitt only does one thing. If he jumps into something, it's into the deep end.
When are you going to do the profile on my tea making abilities? Because you should taste it.
Yeah, Tommy, go ahead.
It's funny, we were filming a show with another racing winemaker, Randy Lewis, who has very high-rated stuff, about 3 or 4 years ago, and Scott was just getting his stuff off the ground, and we were filming a show, and Scott Pruitt shows up, and he was hanging on every word that Randy Lewis told him, and he truly is hands-on, and to get those kinds of ratings that quickly is impressive.
Well, and you said it, I mean, he absorbs everything. We were talking about how he makes trips around. He's made good friends with a lot of the other winemakers in the area, and he studies it. And
apparently they're freer with their secrets than racers are.
Exactly.
Hey, what's your setup?
Joao Barbosa leading, but we understand he will pit this lap, and I would expect that won't be too long before we see the 10, because they're pretty much on the same strategy. Their last pit stop, in fact, was on the same lap, so it'll be interesting to see if they come in nose to tail. If that's the case, it's going to be a battle of the pit crews, at least on this stop. And when you look at the margin of victory, like you were talking about earlier, Tommy, it's not far-fetched to say that this race could be won and lost after 24 hours on a pit stop.
We might also see something that comes up in Indy cars where Dixon showing that he can go a lap or two longer. The cars that can go a lap longer run an extra lap on light fuel with hot tires, and the other guys come out on cold tires and have a slow out lap. So a guy that can go a lap longer might be able to leapfrog. We see that a lot. It's usually something you talk about in sprint races. But be interesting to monitor the fuel mileage of the various cars as we go forward.
And what you just saw with Jordan Taylor into the bus stop is what Bruno Spengler was trying to avoid. Jordan Taylor got hung up behind a prototype challenge car on the way in. That's what Bruno Spengler didn't want to do when he tried to get past one in his GTLM BMW. It didn't work out for him. Jordan Taylor said, I think I'm going to stay back. And that's cost him big time. You see the gap. Closes it up under braking for pit lane down to 60K. 0-2 is there as well. Jamie?
Yeah, Brian, top 3 in the prototype category, all on pit road. We are going to see full service for the number 5, João Barbosa will stay behind the wheel. I believe it's going to be the exact same for the number 10 car. Jordan Taylor will stay behind the wheel of that machine. No tires actually for the number 5. It's going to be a fuel-only pit stop. However, the number 10 is taking tires, so it's a race on pit road. You said it. We'll see which of these teams can get their car out first. Number 5 already underway. Number 10 right behind him.
Yeah, right behind him, but cold tires on the 10, warm tires on the 5. This outlap is going to be critical.
Cold tires only on the rear. Interesting different strategies here. The 10 changed rears only. We saw the difficulty in getting heat in the fronts that Kanaan had shown on restarts.
I think that's going to give him the better drive off the corner. At least that's what the crew is saying on the radio. So we're going to see how that works. But you can see Jordan having to be careful. We've talked about this very, very treacherous pit out.
Little
there it is.
Yeah, he did that just to emphasize your point, then, Brian. On
Thank you for helping me there, Jordan.
Look at the gap. Look at the gap that Barbosa has put on him right here. Now, remember yesterday also Christian Fittibaldi struggling when they double stinted all 4 tires, when they double stinted.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to watch this play out. And they might be trying this stuff to decide what to do on the final stops.
Well, you got to figure that the track temperature is only going to get warmer throughout the day. This may be their last opportunity to do that, because if the temp comes up and the day warms up a little bit more, you may have run out of that option to do that. So Jordan Taylor are going to have to watch the back end, and this is where it's so important that they've gotten that traction control sorted out a little bit, because that's going to help him get the power down.
I had a question on Twitter. We talked about the TC issues and how that maybe affected the Westbrook car. Traction control, basically, as we see the 01 coming in, Pruitt getting service on the 01, all 4 tires.
Taylor into the bus stop. Meanwhile, let's check in with the Spirit of Daytona camp and Andrew.
I'm with Richard Westbrook, and being an Englishman, he's having a nice cup of tea here, but no milk, Richard.
Sorry?
No milk in your tea?
No, green tea. My body's a temple.
So it's been a bit of a struggle. You're not really in the hunt there, are you, quite?
No, I mean, it's been a really strange race for us. It's almost been like a test session. We weren't really ready for the race with a new car. And, you know, we're putting new TC maps in on every pit stop. TC keeps going down. I had no TC that stint. The wheel speed sensor keeps playing up. Then when it comes in, the car's good when you've got TC. So it's sort of, we're thereabouts. When everything's working, the car's actually good. But I think we're only 1 lap down now. So, you know, who knows? Could be an exciting finish for us.
Enjoy the tea. Oh, it smells really weird. I think I must have made it with that grass I found.
His body's a temple, just like yours, Justin.
Yeah, and I pray to it. So, anyway, back out on track. Don't lob me a line like that and expect me not to go somewhere with it.
So the TC, of course, is traction control, and he kind of confirmed what I suspected, whether it cut out right at that moment. He was on cold tires, but the way you tune traction control, you've got wheel sensors, and it's comparing the front speed of the front wheel and the rear wheel multiple times a second, and there's adjustments on the steering wheel to control both where it kicks in terms of what % slip on the actual forward traction, as we're seeing smoke from the 44 car. There's also what's called yaw. Yaw is basically the car as it rotates or slides. That does not, can't tell if it's
out
a
the
tire
right
or
side, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Please just don't get off the main line.
Another rapid unintended disassembly.
Through the bus stop on the previous lap, the tire doesn't look down. In fact, the smoke's coming from inside.
Yeah.
That's not good. They've had gearbox problems throughout the event, and
trying to look on the road behind Brian. There's no.
I think it's burning before it gets there.
It's getting less.
Oh yeah,
running out of oil.
That's not necessarily a good sign.
Yeah, it's running
Not
out
too
of
hot, but something is hitting
I always used to think to myself in that situation, in a minute, is it just going to go onto my rear tires? At what point am I going to have a personal experience with this oil?
Spartan Rackinger behind the wheel right now, so the 44 not having a good Rolex 24, but for Joao Barbosa, he leads overall. Ryan Briscoe in GTLM. Cora Autosport holding down the point with Mark Wilkins in Prototype Challenge. We'll be back to more from Daytona.
The first time I did it, I think I underestimated how big an event the Rolex 24 is. This is a really tough motor race.
This race has everything.
You never know where the challenge comes from.
It's a sprint race for 24 hours. It's a very, very tough one to win. It's certainly an event that, as a fan, that I would want to come and be a part of.
Welcome to Fox continued coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the 53rd running of this iconic event. And the weather is absolutely perfect. Let's keep you up to date with the leaderboard right now. Joao Barbosa in the number 5, leads overall in his Mustang testing Corvette. Then Jordan Taylor, Scott Dixon, Scott Pruitt. Great run for Ganassi Racing. Give you a look at the highlights from this morning. Beautiful sunrise. We had weather yesterday morning, but man, the sun rose beautifully today. This is not what you want to see on the back of a Porsche 911.
Yeah, just look at that. The crankcase issues they had. We can't remember the last time we saw them have a big mechanical like that, and they were running so strong.
What was the term?
Rapid unintended disassembly.
Yep, pretty much. Then Ollie Gavin, a problem on a restart. Cold tires under braking, makes contact. That's going to bring him to the pits for some repairs. Took him out of the lead. He was leading at the time. And we've seen this cold weather, the cold track temperatures, drivers having problems. Bruno Spengler, one of them, trying to outbrake a Prototype Challenge car into the bus stop.
We thought it was going to really affect his pace. The team were distraught at the time, but actually they seem to be able to hold the speed.
He got back on track, and they've actually worked themselves back now onto the lead lap. Here's who's out of the race. We saw the 17, the Team Falcon Tire Porsche with the problem, the number 7 from Starworks Motorsports with Hartley and Barrichello, 2 big names, and hey, don't forget Ryan Hunter-Ray. That's a pretty big name as well. Another page of cars that have met their demise. You've got to endure. You've got to make it 24 hours if you want a shot at the Rolex, and you got to stay on track if you're going to do it. Let's check down in the pit lane with Chris Neville.
Well, Brian, our pole-sitting car, the Mike Shank number 60, really the fastest car the entire month. Since the beginning of this race, they just haven't had the speed of the other Daytona prototypes. And talking with Mike Shank, he said, you know, a lot of it comes down to all the cautions that we've had. I don't think we've really had more than 2 hours of green flag running. And he said it's this car trying to get it up to speed on cold tires. Those first few laps, it takes about 5 or 6 laps for them to get up to speed. So they continue to lose a little bit of time there. But in the overnight hour, it was John Pugh that put that car into the wall, damaged the nose on it, and they went down about 5 laps. They've been doing everything they can to try and make up those laps, but luck just hasn't gone their way. A little bit further down pit lane, Scott Pruitt has brought the 01 in, and they're putting a new nose on that car. Matt?
Now, Chris, Brian Till documented the issues that the Corvette number 4 with Oliver Gavin had earlier on a restart, the damage to the nose of the car. Now, they have been taking still photos of the car on the racetrack as it comes by the front stretch just to see how significant that damage still is and to try to also formulate a game plan. Now, they have been working earlier. They took the nose, that's the backup nose, which will take way too long to swap it out. They'll lose too much time, so they're formulating a little bit of a game plan. They've got bare bond, but on the back side of that is a piece of aluminum. And what they did was they took tin snips And this is the area that is damaged, and they're trying to seal it off as much as possible because there's damage also behind the nose. Bungee cords trying to hold certain items in place, so they're going to put this on the race car when he does come in. Right now, that number 4 car currently 3rd in class.
Front end of those cars so strong, but every one of those little bits and pieces is there for a reason. And anytime you have a hit like that, and I'll go back to the 25 as well, anytime you have a hit like that, you've got to be concerned about not the damage right now, but with just over 5 hours to go, what kind of problems are we going to have? The 64, obviously, they've had a big problem. That's not the damage that's going to be easily repaired by any shape of the imagination. That was going into the West Horseshoe here. Don't have a replay of exactly what happened, but for Francisco Longo, Chico Longo as they call him, day done. Full course caution out here at Daytona. Crew's going to work to repair some of the tire bales. It looks like he went off at the kink, made big impact, but for Joao Barbosa, everything going his way right now.
If one class gets strung out, you just wait for the next lap. They can watch the garages and what's going on.
Just the smells and the sounds and the excitement. In my opinion, there's no better sport in the world.
It's a lot of different races and styles of races compiled into one.
And you've got a year to get it done, so there's really no excuse. You got time to get your plane tickets and get everything sorted out to be here next year. This is a must-see event. It's great to watch it on television, but you've got to come to the racetrack. 180 acres worth of infield here at Daytona International Speedway. You saw a little shovel ball being played by some of the guys when we went to break. And look at the crowd that's on hand here. It is, it's like I said, you just have to experience it.
Well, you could ask 100 fans how they experience it, and everyone likes to do it slightly differently. And that's one thing here is there's so many layers to this type of racing, but the fan experience, you can do it. And they're starting to have a campaign, follow me to the grid walk, follow me to this, that, and the other. So everyone likes to do it differently. Some people like to, obviously they're burning time with the playing baseball with the shovels. Some people say, well, I like to watch this part of the race here. I like to see the sunset come over here. This is where I like to take photos at this time. The new Daytona Rising, those grandstands, like I said earlier, that's where I'd want to watch the finish and see the whole track. And it's different than any other type of racing in terms of the different ways you can approach it.
Well, and every one of those fans had the opportunity to walk down and do the grid walk and see the drivers and the cars just before the race. Let's head down to Chris Neville.
Travis Roffler is Director of Marketing at Continental Tire. And Travis, each year you guys bring about 10,000 tires. I think it's 17 or 20 trucks here. What do you think of this race so far?
Absolutely amazing race. Conditions couldn't be better. Track is really setting up for a fantastic finish. These guys, teams, everybody have worked hard through the night. Comes down to the last few hours. Everybody's turning laps within probably 3/10 of one another. So it's going to be a really exciting finish here.
Yeah, the track is a bit cold right now, but it's going to warm up with this beautiful weather. So what are we going to see from a tire perspective?
Those tires are going to come back in. I doubt there'll be anybody double stinting towards the end, but we're going to see what turns out.
You have your money on anybody?
I can't pick a favorite. I love them all. We love road racing. This is exciting to be here at Daytona. Couldn't be better.
We can't tell you how much we appreciate Continental being here.
We love it. Thank you very much.
All right. Good luck, man.
Yes, sir.
3 of 4 classes ride exclusively on Continental tires, including the prototypes, who will run up front and win overall. Joao Barbosa waiting to get back on the hammer. The Audi R8 safety car just in front. They'll dive off just right here before pit in. And then in the restart zone will be Barbosa, who sets the pace. Right behind him, Jordan Taylor in the black number 10 from Green Racing. Here we go, 2 Corvettes up front, followed right behind Tony Kanaan in the 02 from Ganassi, and then the 01 of Scott Pruitt is going to have to work through some traffic. Here we head down to turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing Jordan could do there to do anything stupid. Certainly it's about keeping that pace. All 3 of those top running cars have got a great shot of being in the lead here, but
and look at the pressure.
Forcing someone into a mistake, Tommy, is the other side of it.
The trouble they've been having with the cold front tires with lockup. Now you can't adjust brake bias. Look at this. On the outside, if he can stay there through the kink.
Will they do it? No, he gets out of it just before. He kind of has to. Discretion being the better part of valor. Remember Taylor.
So there's that.
Very cool, calm and collected. Well, he hit me, so there's that. Remember, he's got fresher rear tires that drive off the corner. He's going to have a little bit of an advantage on Barbosa, perhaps. We saw that off the International Horseshoe. What can he do on the 6?
That was just great driving by them both.
neither one of those guys was going to give an inch. I guarantee you, if you look over and see Joao Barbosa there at turn in, he's not moving.
Well, I think he probably watched the last lap of the GTD finish last year. knew who was going to get the short end of that stick.
Sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and the guy on the outside always loses. So.
And as they head down into the bus stop, you know, we've seen so much action here. Everyone trying to outbrake each other. That mid-corner rolling speed, and you just want to you say to yourself, don't you, Tommy, I'm going to get on the gas there now. And you know, if you can get on 1/100th of a second earlier than the guy in front, you will pull him. But I have to say, Barbosa was excellent leaving the bus stop that lap.
I think that move off the international hairpin, or horseshoe, I should say, kind of woke Barbosa back up, and he's gotten on it hard. Continental tires now coming up to temperature, but remember, he's on double stinted tires. This is the move. This is down into the hairpin. He kind of sets it up so he can cut back underneath. The problem is the kink is the left-hand corner, and Barbosa has the preferred line.
Yeah, it's a long way around here. This is I mean, Jordan is actually on the correct line right there, but with Joao on the inside. I mean, that was just good racing.
This is how we saw it unfold live. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong here. They're wheel to wheel. Barbosa doesn't need to get out of the way. He just needs to leave Jordan Taylor room to race.
Well, last year's rules were a lot more explicit in that regard, with Mo Barfield signaling these guys that he's going to be more hands-off this year. I think that that was definitely a wise move on Taylor's part.
Good battle up front between the Corvettes, but GTLM, it's a Corvette that leads as well as the number 3, Jan Magnussen. Ryan Briscoe just climbed out of that car a few minutes ago, Matt.
He sure did, and it was an interesting night for this team, but you've climbed out, so are your duties done unless, for whatever reason, you get called back into action at the last minute?
I'm going to leave my suit on, but I think, yeah, the plan would be for Jan and Antonio to finish out the day. We've had a great race so far, you know. The car's just been a dream to drive. Everyone's done a great job with this Corvette C7R. It's a dream to drive. Pit stops have been beautiful, and we've been keeping out of trouble. So hopefully these last 6 hours here, we can, or 5, 6 hours, we can just stay out of trouble, and the car's fast. I think we've got to show it.
When you look back to all the action that took place during the night, what stands out to you most?
I mean, I haven't seen the accident, but I mean, definitely the two Porsches taking each other out. I think they were going to be really stiff competition for the victory today, and they certainly did us a big favour by taking themselves out. So, you know, that was a big blow. You know, I had the BMW go off right in front of me in that last stint, which was great. So, you know, there's been a lot of action, some really good racing as well. It's just been a ton of fun.
Good luck in the final 5 hours.
Thank you.
Pressure up front has gone from 2 cars to 3 as Tony Kanaan has joined the fight right on the back wing now of Jordan Taylor. Ford EcoBoost twin turbos in the 02. They've kind of redesigned the package of that Ford EcoBoost this year. Overheating problems last year in its infancy and all of that. They've moved some things around, lost some weight in the engine, and able to lower some components, as did the Chevrolet. So the thing that's great about it, I think, is just shows you that these manufacturers are not resting in the offseason. Chevrolet won the Manufacturers Championship. They won the Drivers Championship. But they didn't rest on their laurels. They went right to work at trying to make a better engine package, and so did Ford.
Yeah, and it's just constant refinement. Some of the changes to the Ford were just making the plumbing between the intercoolers and the air intake just a little straighter to try to save a few pounds up high on the engine. The whole overall engine installation with the turbos and intercoolers and wastegates a little bit heavier overall than what they were running before.
Let's play a little game of what if. This is the last 5 laps of the race. My money would be on that Jordan's car has the slight advantage if he could get by, but I don't think Tony right now is, if he can get by, but you can see he can get close enough coming down into turn 1. I'm just thinking we could be looking at this exactly this setup in about 4 hours, 48 minutes time.
Well, it's interesting. Jordan in the car, you know, Briscoe says he thinks the other two will take it to the end. That's 2 hours and 40 minutes, 5 minutes each for those other guys. Those are long stints. So I think we might be looking at the finish guys. I know the plan is to have Barbosa in for the end. I think the plan is to have Jordan in for the end. So it's going to be interesting to see how long they keep him in and how long they'll be able to rest.
I mean, all Tony Kanaan has to do right now is just hold this position. You know, he's not using much of the car up.
That's it.
He's a risk freezing. Yeah,
that's it. That's just easy. Yeah, just put it on automatic.
I'm very comfortable in my seat here. I'm not finding his job at all tough right now. It's amazing how we do slip into armchair. Yeah, all you got to do, Usain, is just run another 9.9 second.
Just hit his fuel number, take care of the tires, and go fast.
Yeah, exactly, and dodge traffic. Yeah, I mean, the guy doesn't perspire ever. He's the Superman.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, he is. Vin Diesel.
I think the thing that's great, though, is it shows just how evenly matched the cars are between the different chassis, the different bodywork that's on, and the different power plants that are there. And it's going to come down to the drivers, and it's a pretty star-studded lineup. Speaking of star-studded lineups, let's go down to Chris in the Ganassi camp.
Yeah, Brian, and the strategy with the O2 in the beginning of this race was triple stint their drivers. So Kyle Larson got in late in the race, late last night. And Kyle, we were off air at that point in time, but I was watching timing and scoring, and I was watching Twitter. And when you were in the car, it was lighting up. You were going so fast. But what was it like getting behind the wheel for the first time at nighttime in this race?
It was a really good few stints for me. You know, last year I struggled really bad, and you know, this time around I felt more comfortable, and I ran pretty good laps. So I'll get back in here pretty soon and just try to make no mistakes again, and try and hand the car off to Dixon and let him finish the race and try and go get us a win for Target Chip Ganassi Racing.
I talked to you at the Homestead Sprint Car race, or Sprint Cup race last fall, about coming back here, and you weren't too excited about coming back, but you came back and you had the speed. What was it that changed?
Yeah, I think just be more comfortable in these different style race cars from what I'm used to, and then our car's a lot better this year. I think last year we didn't have the comfort I needed, and this year I feel a lot better. So, like I said, that first stint was good. This will be the first time I've ever raced here during the day in this type of car, so that'll be different, but it should be fun.
Tony Kanaan made a mistake last night in the bus stop, tore up one of the splitters. We saw the team also working on the right front corner this morning. Is the O2 car 100%?
I don't know if it's 100%, but it's still fast, so that's the main thing. It drives different than it did, of all testing and stuff. I think after they changed the splitter, there's a couple issues, but we should be all right. I mean, I ran with it after he knocked the splitter off of it, so we should be okay. Just like I said, just try and make no mistakes and hand the car off to Dixon and let him go out there and try and get the win for us.
Thanks, Kyle. Have fun.
Soft-spoken 22-year-old, but his driving is anything but soft-spoken. He's already won races in midgets this year at the Chili Bowl, and see if he can earn a Rolex watch this weekend. But he's going to have to get past two very fast Corvettes in front if he's going to do it. It's Joao Barbosa who continues to lead. Blanket over the top three after 19 hours and 18 minutes. It's Barbosa over Taylor, over Tony Kanaan, and there they are as they head down into turn one. And the question is, are they willing to just run in lockstep like this for a while, or is there an effort on Jordan Taylor's part to actually take over the lead? Is he content to run there? Welcome back to Calvin Fish, who's back with us now. Tommy Kendall stepped out to get another cup of coffee. Justin Bell still up here. Cal?
Well, I think at this stage there's no point in pushing the issue. I mean, you realize that there's probably going to be another caution, so why try and force your way to the front? Okay, maybe you could gap him by 2 or 3 seconds, but it's going to come right back to you. So I think they're just sussing each other out right now, probably giving feedback as to where the cars are strong, where they're weak, what they need to work on their car. Obviously, the track conditions are going to get a little bit warmer here in the last few hours of this race, so lots to play for. But looking at this lead group, look to the back of it, and you'll see the number 31 Whelen Corvette, driven by Phil Keane. What a great run he's having here. They're many laps down with the issues they had early on, Justin, but he's shown tremendous pace.
Yeah, I mean, as Andrew had a little mention about it earlier, and, Phil hasn't driven that much, here in this level for a long time, and yeah, his pace has been really, really good. So, but what you're just saying about Jordan, did you see that restart not long ago? I mean, Jordan hadn't got that memo at that point.
Yeah, I know.
But you do have to be slightly opportunistic when the chance comes up. That's what racing drivers do by nature. Now it's settled down that little bit.
There's a look at Phil Keane. We talked about him, a top 5 runner in the British GT Championship last year, finished 4th. And it is an adjustment from a GT car into a prototype, a lot more downforce, the carbon brakes. Car stops incredibly well.
Here he is side by side with AJ down into the brake zone and trying to take it to the dinger. he's not intimidated, and the biggest thing for him was getting used to the traffic. I spoke to him here at the test, and he said, yeah, the car's good. He's driven the Radical prototype, a lot different. Look at this traffic.
There's the traffic you're talking about.
But he certainly settled in very well. I know the whole team and the co-drivers there very impressed with his attitude, his approach, and certainly his speed as well.
That was Townsend Bell, third in GTD, that they were going around in the number 63 Ferrari. So Bell and Sweedler and company looking to gain another Rolex after winning here last year in GT Daytona. They'd like to make it 2 in a row.
Dropping off this lead pack right now is the 0-1 of Scott Pruitt. He now sits about 7 seconds off the lead. Hadn't been right with this pack when we went back to green flag running here. So seems like the 0-1 may not be the sharpest knife in this fight right now. They've got to work on it. Obviously, they've spoken about the understeer, but when you look at the fastest laps of this race, when it really comes down to it on an open track, they seem to be 3 or 4 tenths off. So they've got some work to do here in the last 4.5 hours of this race if they're going to be a factor here for the win today.
Well, rounding out the top 5 is the number 90 Spirit of Daytona Corvette with Michael Valiente behind the wheel. They're working to stay in the fight. Matt, what do you have down there from Spirit of Daytona?
Well, Brian, 20 years ago, they were known as the Spirit of Daytona. Today, they're Visit Florida.com Racing. But when you look back 20 years ago, this team really began in a grandmother's garage. Now, Stan Fliss and his 2 sons, Todd and Troy, began this team by purchasing a totaled out Mitsubishi from South Florida. Once they were able to get it to dry out because it ended its life in a creek, they started piecing it together with parts that they basically salvaged from Andy Pilgrim's Street Mitsubishi. And the entire town got together. Now, they had 30 sets of Shade Street tires donated, several restaurants donated food, and they put the car together in their grandmother's garage. And simply, they started dead last, passed 50 cars, and finished 24th. And when you look at where that team has started and where they've come from, $8,000 is what it cost them 20 years ago to compete here in the Rolex 24. By the way, last year they spent about an extra $292,000 to compete here in this iconic endurance race.
In this one event, it just shows you, I mean, you think about it, 24 hours, the number of tires you're going to go through, the amount of fuel, the oil, the food, more than just a few guys on a crew these days, and everything that it takes to run.
But that's what's great about this racing is that, I mean, if by what Matt was saying, they run on about a $300,000 budget, well, that's, you know, that's the catering budget for a Formula One team on a weekend, if that. But, you know, different teams spending different amounts of money, getting a lot of the same results. As we ride on board with the number 3, Jan Magnussen behind the wheel, it's just, you know, you said right at the top, Calvin, the Corvette, really, the last half of last year, it wasn't easy for them. The regulations didn't, the balance performance didn't really work in their favor. And just that whole Pratt & Miller squad, Corvette, Doug Feehan, they had a look of intensity coming into this one.
They absolutely did, because they literally went on a tear, won 4 consecutive races, which in this class, or this series even, is unheard of. And they looked like the championship was theirs. Then there's that slight AOP, as we call it, adjustment of performance going into Indy, and suddenly they lost their edge. They are back in the thick of the battle. Things started to go wrong. They had that big crash in practice with Jan Magnussen, and suddenly it just sort of like unraveled itself, and the Viper squad stole the championship away from them. So I'm sure they want to come back this year and do it right. They've won here overall at Daytona, and last year the cars were new, had a few teething problems, gearbox on one, overheating on the other. They want to be on the podium and try and win this year with the Yellow Beast.
Around the banking, 3 out in front, and what he doesn't want to see is that very potent BMW behind him. Farfus able to claw his way back on the lead lap. Problems in GTD earlier, though, for the number 44. Chris, what happened?
Yeah, Brian, really this car was one of the favorites in the class, and Andy, you and I spoke last night. The team was having some transmission issues at that point in time, but now you're back in the garage. What put you guys out of this race?
I'm not exactly sure what this had to do with it, but if anybody was following along on Twitter just now, I tweeted something a little gross, so heads up. At about 5 a.m. this morning, I was following one of the Vipers real close, right in the middle of NASCAR 3-4, and it swerved really hard. And right as soon as that happened, I heard a big hit on the front end of the car. We just ended up shutting her down with an oil leak, and as we opened up the front hood, obviously the Porsche with the rear engine, it's an empty front trunk. The Viper clipped a possum, and it came through the front end of my car, ripped through the tub, ripped through the rivets,
in our trunk, and what a weird way, and I guess a little ironic it's me as well, but sad day for the Possum, sad day for Magnus Racing. I want to say thanks a lot, though, to the Children's Tumor Foundation who came on board with us, Flexbox and Z-Clip who debuted here with us today. Unfortunately, this is the first ever Daytona 24 that I'm not going to see the finish on in 15 years, but a testament to PWR radiators. It flexed the radiator right out of the way and the thing held water for the rest of the day, but something happened along the way there that kind of, maybe it's just karma. But after a real tough day, we ended up in the garage here. So thanks for the support, everybody out there. Thanks to the Children's Tumor Foundation again, and we got a mess to clean up in the front of this car.
Obviously not the way this team wanted to start the season, and this team always comes up with some creative posters each year at the Rolex 24. I can't imagine what next year's is going to look like.
Yeah, that's. I hope
it's not pretty.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't use today's events for that. You know, Andy Lally said it's pretty ironic. He's a big animal rights guy, doesn't eat meat. He and his buddy Spencer Pompelli. So to go, that's why he said it's kind of ironic that it happened to me. So the idea that he was part of the demise of the Possum out on the racetrack is going to haunt him just a little bit. And here we're looking down on the battle in GTLM. That's the number 4 Corvette running third right now in GTLM. Up to second, actually. He's moved past Farfus in the 25 BMW. So Corvettes run 1-2 in GT Le Mans. We'll be back. Now, as he drives around the 31-degree banking here at Daytona International Speedway, he certainly would. He may be relating information back to the crew because I think he's really measuring up. Joao Barbosa right now, who runs just in front in the white, black, and gold number 5 Corvette. Taylor right there, and Calvin, that time he got a pretty good run off of 6 and around the banking to the bus stop, but looks to me like he's just trying to take notes to figure out what they can do to win this race when it all comes down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're really just trying to sharpen the knife a little bit for the end of this race. And one thing that Wayne Taylor predicted, I hate to say that Wayne Taylor was right about anything, but he did tell me, he said, if we have cool conditions this week, look for our car. He said, remember at Petit Le Mans is really strong at the end of the race when we've had tracks where we haven't had hot conditions. That's when we're at our best. So something about that car, it comes alive a little bit in the cooler hours. And we certainly saw that throughout the night with Max Angelelli putting in a tremendous stint, really had tremendous pace when it was really cool here. So this track's going to heat up a little bit, and they've obviously got to be aware of that. They'll certainly have some changes that they'll make to compensate for the track conditions, changing a little bit the balance of the race car.
I tell you, you watch the front of the 10. He can hold a tighter line. He can carry a little bit more rolling speed mid-corner, which is obviously what you need if you're going to make a big overtaking move, because you've got to be able to pin it down once you execute the move. So I don't think he wants to burn that up right now. Sure, if the lead presented itself, if Joao made a little mistake, he'll go by if the opportunity was there. But I think right now can be a little more conservative, maybe even eke out a little bit more gas mileage out of the car. So they're running flat out, but right now with 4 hours 28 to go, this is about positioning, and we've now pretty much understood, Calvin, who these finishing drivers are probably going to be. And as you say, Jordan, I anticipate will come out at the next stop. We heard that Dixon is going to finish.
Yeah, Joey Hand is supposed to finish in the 01. Dixon will definitely be in the 02. Be interested to see what the 5 car does, whether they give Joao a quick rest or put him back in and put him in for the finish. Certainly there's no weak link on that team, but I think Bourdais may be finishing in the 5.
Looks like Jordan Taylor, the 10 car, very good under the brakes as well. So they've got a great battle going here in the other prototype class, Prototype Challenge. It's the 54 that leads. Remember, this team won this event and Sebring last year. John Bennett, Colin Brown won the Drivers' Championship. And for John Bennett, he has built an organization in Core Autosport that really is second to none, Matt.
And they're having a stellar 24 hours. Much like last year, your car out in the lead, but unlike last year, you have really had to earn it. A lot of issues throughout the night, flat tires, but again, your team still just running steady.
Yeah, we've had our share of issues. I'm so proud of the guys here. My co-drivers, Colin, Mark, and James, super job all night long. We haven't had anything major wrong, just a lot of little things, ankle biting, flat tires, etc. Very happy to be in the lead, but you know, this is a time of day when you start hearing things, you start seeing things, and maybe second guessing yourself a little bit. So I think we're gonna be great. It's a long 4 hours still ahead, but yeah, we're in a good spot.
Success is always based on small attention to detail, and one detail that you guys have, which has played huge so far, is Stevie Reeves, a NASCAR spotter for driver Paul Menard, and his son Hayden have come down to spot for your team. How much of a game changer? He's one of 16 NASCAR spotters that are here. How much of a game changer has that been?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give away our hot secrets here, but having Stevie and his son Hayden above, it's been invaluable. It gives you so much confidence in the cockpit. It's like being able to see 360 degrees at all times, and it's been great. And they're so professional. You can definitely tell that they've done this before.
All right, good luck.
Thank you,
Brian.
Well, not only has Stevie Reeves done that before, also a former USAC driver, so he knows his way around a car. Speaking of USAC drivers, Kyle Larson getting ready to climb in. Midgets, NASCAR, sports cars. Kyle Larson has done it all. Can he win a Rolex this year? To do something absolutely awesome last October, and Justin Bell, I know you've been involved with it as well, and that's the Children's Tumor Foundation Gala in New York City. Jeffrey Owen Hansen, who's the artist who came up with the art for the art car, he was there, as well as Jill Beck, who we see around the racetrack all the time. Just a fantastic event. We raised almost $1.5 million that night at the gala for Children's Tumor Foundation in their fight to find a cure for neurofibromatosis, and just a really an emotional evening. And I know you've been involved with it, JP.
Extraordinary. I drove here with Ryan Eversley in that Porsche 2 years ago, and that was my first involvement with him. Then I hosted that New York banquet like the year before you did. And do you remember last year when you were going to host their evening here, which they do on Friday, all the families come along? I said, just prepare yourself, because there'll be a moment that you'll choke up on the stage in front of 300 people.
Absolutely.
And not actually be able to say much. Great. I mean, do you know it's one of the most dynamic interactions and activations between a charity, a foundation. The kids actually raise money, come here, it just brings such joy to the parents and them. And you see drivers, as I've said before, we're not naturally known for our generosity. It's sort of about us, really, in order to be a sportsman. But you get kids like this, and it just humbles you and makes you feel good. And you know what? They're so positive. I remember in the middle of the night when you almost don't want to get back in the car, and then you realize there's these little kids in blue shirts who endure an awful lot more than we do. So Jill, her whole team, and if you see a little kid in a blue NF Hero shirt saying Children's Tumor Foundation on, they wear that with a badge of pride in a fabulous way. And
they are heroes. I mean, you said it. I mean, we think we have a bad day. You look at their strength, and it's amazing. Talk about strength. Jordan Taylor with a drive off turn 6. He may be close enough to get something done this time at the bus stop, Calvin.
Yeah, definitely got great drive again. I mean, the 10 car is looking awfully strong right now. I mean, it definitely has the handling over the rest of the field. Whether they can maintain that for the last 4 hours or so, we'll have to wait and see. But he's been very circumspect here in terms of trying to really push Wow into a mistake. Wow, so much experience, and that whole group has done a tremendous job. They dropped back a little bit with that little glitch on the fuel pump that they had, but just worked perfect strategy. Essentially got a lap and 3/4 back under one of the caution periods, and got them right back in the mix, and now they hold the lead.
Barbosa will pit this lap, so he dives down, and as expected,
look at
Taylor
this.
goes with him, and he passes him on the way in.
It's all about execution, and and they touch.
Wow.
That is awesome. Barbosa had to cut through his pit stall, otherwise he was going to miss it, so he couldn't wait any longer and try to cut across. Left to see if it's damaged the splitter on the number 5 or damaged the tail on the 10.
I don't think Jordan Taylor liked the little move down the middle of the racetrack into the bus stop, perfectly legal, and then he tries to take advantage on the way into the pits, and I'm thinking Barbosa wasn't wild about that move. It did kind of block him from his pit stall. So you can tell the fight happens on the racetrack, it happens in pit lane, and it's going to happen with the crews as well.
Yeah, they're going to definitely have a look and see if things happen. These things are built like tanks, so I hope there is no real damage to the car. They're waving the 5 car out.
Yeah, it looks fine. Would have been that left front, if anything, and it looks pretty good from it. However, maybe there's a There's something flapping on the left.
Definitely that little hip
Front
check
wheel
as they reach the 60K speed.
Massive difference here in the execution of the pit stop.
10 car out well ahead of the 5. Big gap at pit out. It'll be interesting to see the strategies that played out there on that stop. We didn't get a look at what was happening on the 10 pit stop. I don't know whether they took tires or not, only 2 or 4. This is the move down in the bus stop. Barbosa does nothing wrong. He comes off of NASCAR 2, parks in the middle of the road because he knows that Taylor has a run on him. That's perfectly legal. He didn't move in response to Jordan. Now here's the race into the pit lane.
Yeah, well, this is just all about how you really practice and rehearse how quickly you can get into the pit lane and get it woed down to the 37 miles an hour. And then you can see Barbosa, he's in the first pit stall being the championship winner from last year. He's got to get over there, otherwise he's going to have to do a drive through the pits, and he may not have enough fuel to get back. So
it was, in some ways, absolute genius, because if Jordan could come in harder than that into the 60 mile an hour K speed limit, and Barbosa was on the outside of him trying to get to his pit stop, I mean, that was brilliant, apart from the fact they touched. As we join Chris down there in the pits.
And Justin, it was also a great stop by the 10 team. They did do 4 tires on that stop. They've been doing 2 tires. They did 4 on that stop. Now the 02 right in front of me. Tony Kanaan out. Kyle Larson getting his first chance behind the wheel in the sunlight. He ran all last night doing 4 tires on this car. 4 Continental tires, finished with fuel, but slow with the belts right now. So the car is ready to go, but they're still trying to belt Kyle Larson in. So obviously very slow on the driver change here. Gonna be interesting to see these outlaps as the 02, the 10, and the 5 all did 4 tires on that stop.
Well, you know, that's the thing. Tony Kanaan's not used to jumping out of a car. Kyle Larson's not used to jumping in the car and quickly getting his belts on. So that is the hiccup when you bring drivers in from other disciplines. The driver change is so important. They've got to get done. You've got to be ready to go once the car is dropped and the fuel is in. And obviously a little bit of a hiccup there on the 02.
It's what they do between the getting in and getting out that's important, and they're really, really stunning. Just going back to that, Calvin, there should be no penalties assessed for anything like that, because that was genius the way he comes in. Nowhere in the regulations is saying you cannot come into pit lane faster than the other guy.
Looks like the door on the right-hand side of the 02 is not latched securely. So I kind of come up, and there's the cold tires
there, just trying to get the power down. And this boy's got car control to burn, so that just shows you what it's all about. Got to maybe adjust the TC a little bit on this outlap just to try and make sure you don't make a mistake. But even so, you've got a tippy toe around these first lap or two. Still pretty cool out there.
If you've never, a lot of our viewers I know do a lot of track days, and a lot of them are very enthusiastic participants in club racing and track events. You'll know what it's like to bring a car up on cold tires. But when you're in a prototype, that is a unique experience for a driver. You almost feel like you're driving something completely different, which just gets better. It's a very rewarding experience as it beds itself in, but Carl able to bring it up to speed with the benefit of not having someone right up his derriere.
Yeah, you need experience because the car feels like an absolute animal when you go out on cold tires and you're in the pressure of the race. You can't wait around too long. There you see the door, the passenger door as we call it, the right side door is not latched and keeps coming up there. Particularly when he's at the lower speed. At high speed, the downforce of the car on the air going over it keeps it down. As he got into the bus stop chicane, it was coming up.
And you saw the ebb and flow with the prototype challenge car with Kyle Larson being on cold tires. You can find tenths of a second everywhere you can around this racetrack, because what you want to do is leave here being known as champion of the Rolex 24. Sometimes the fight goes all the way to the pits.
This Sunday, January of 2015. 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona here on Fox Sports 1. Hi everybody, I'm Bob Barsha. There are my colleagues as we continue. Just over 4 hours remaining in this sports car classic. Down to the pit lane and Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, right when we went to break, Tony Kanaan jumped out of the 02 car. And Tony, I saw you jump on the radio immediately and start talking with Kyle Larson and the crew up here. What kind of things were you telling Kyle? Because he hasn't done any daylight running.
No, I mean, it's getting a little hotter, so we lost a little bit of grip. But we were running a pretty comfortable pace behind the 5 and the 10. I didn't want to get in the middle of that. I just kept my distance. I think, you know, they were they're racing pretty hard, and I want to lead the last lap. So I think we have a good car. I just told Kyle to keep it up in the top 3, top 4, because the race hasn't started yet.
You were shadowing both of those cars for much of the last hour. Are they any better than you anywhere?
It's really, we're better than them in a couple places. They're better than us. And then you see the lap times are exactly the same. So it's definitely not going to be easy to pass. It's going to be probably down to pit stops and how you manage traffic. I think that's going to be the key in the last hour.
5 and the 10, they've been changing up their tire strategy. Sometimes double stinting, sometimes just doing 2 tires. You guys have been doing 4 the entire time. Do you think that's the strategy?
We don't know. I mean, it's definitely a penalty to go out in cold tires. And I felt that when I left behind the pits, behind them, they opened like 10-second gap. So I'm pretty sure Simmons is thinking about that. And I don't think it's the time to do it right now, so we'll save it for the end.
The Ganassi team has racked up a lot of wins here, but the last time the 0-2 has been to victory lane, that was back in 2006.
Thanks, Chris. And while you were talking with Tony Kanaan, we saw Sage Karam. I was just about to formulate a question for you, Calvin, about whether or not the Ganassi team could use the draft, run together, cooperate to keep that 0-1 car with their season regulars in the hunt. Then he straight lined the chicane.
Yeah, I think that was just down to tire temperature. Sage has obviously got a lot less laps on his tires right now. He didn't have the tire temp. Kyle looks to the inside here, and I think Sage didn't want to turn in on him, and he didn't have the grip to run the higher line and turn into the chicane. So he did the right thing, didn't lock him up. He's going to lose a few seconds here, but he didn't flat spot a tire or create any issues. So it's tough. I mean, Kyle's got tire temperature. He's got a lot of speed. He's in the chase, and Sage was just getting it up to temperature.
Like I said, you know, we've seen it during the night. If you make this, if you create a safe incident for yourself, it has very little effect on you 10 minutes later, let alone an hour or 2. So, yeah, a lot going on track.
Slow-moving GT Daytona Porsche on the racetrack. Through the high-speed kink. While that car sorts itself out, let's go back down to Chris Neville now with Scott Pruitt.
Well, Scott Pruitt down here in pit lane because Sage Karam just got behind the wheel. And Scott, you just saw Sage run through the bus stop there. Obviously, we've still got a couple hours left, but what are you telling these young guys that you can't be doing that right now?
Well, at the bus stop, if you can't make it, go straight. Because if you don't, you'll tear up a race car. So he did, if he couldn't make the turn, he did exactly what we've been telling him to do. Car's been running good. We're fighting a bit of understeer. We're fighting it pretty much all night, trying to find some things to fix that. Ford EcoBoost, engine's been doing great. Ganassi guy's been doing great. Now it's going to be interesting to see if we got enough speed.
I was listening to you all morning, and it sounded like you were really working the sway bars in the car, also making some aerodynamic changes. Any of that making the understeer better?
I think we found a good sweet spot for the bars. I was up and down. The aero, I think we're a bit heavy on the aero. We're trying to band-aid it right now. It's not bad. It's a bit pointy. It's not exactly where we want it to be, but we're trying to do whatever we can.
As the track warms up, do you think that's going to come to the 01 car at all?
That's what we hope. I mean, this whole thing was to get our car the best it could be for those last 3 hours. So hopefully we've been able to do that. Hi to my family at home and see what we have. So, you know what? We'll see.
Well, this team doing everything they can, but I've always learned hope is not a good strategy.
Good point, Chris.
Scott didn't sound mega confident, but I think they're in the game. But there's a lot of strong cars out there, and you're going to need that edge. I mean, this is a flat-out sprint after the final caution. You have to have the fastest car if you're going to win this today. You're not going to be 3 or 4 tenths off and win this race, I don't think.
There's no room for any weakness as we go into these last 3 hours. I also just think in Scott's defense, he just got out after a couple of hours running. And, he just had that little crack of fatigue that you do get. Not a lot of sleep, pushing hard, and the winner of this race is not going to have made many mistakes. It's the fewest mistakes that will win this race, and yet you still got to have the pace. So I tell you what, I don't like that. You see this closing speed when we just saw on screen there was a Porsche GTD car going very slowly as we watch as the 19 hit the pit lane.
It's not quite there yet. Meanwhile, we're seeing GTLM cars.
The GTD leader is in. Great job by Cameron Lawrence. What a talent this young man is. He's run with our own TK Tommy Kendall in the Trans Am Series last couple of seasons, won the T2 title 2 years in a row. And
there's the 19.
My brand are very proud of this young man's ability.
Corvette crew going to work. Tommy Milner going to take over for Oliver Gavin. Matt.
And service almost complete off the three. In fact, he pulls away. They pulled a tear-off his car now. There aren't any tear-offs left on the windshield for Tommy Milner, so they were busy trying to clean that windshield. You can also see on the front, they did make repairs on a previous stop to that left front damage to the nose, and he's away.
You saw the effect of what Tommy Kendall was talking about earlier, a rules change that does not allow those bungee cords, if you will, made of surgical tubing that used to yank all the belts safely out of the way as the driver exits and enters. Tommy Milner, in that case, was able to grab the shoulder belt, and they are allowed to use that tubing on the lap belts now, but not on the shoulder belts. So the Corvette crew, prepared as always, decided drivers will flip the belt over that helmet net.
I mean, they've worked so hard on dry race. This steering column going up and down, allowing them to get in. In the old days, you took the wheel off. That just added another layer of, intensity to another factor in a pit stop. You can't get the wheel back on. God, that was awful.
Yeah, and I think the reason they went to that change in the ruling was the FIA did some studies and believed that with that surgical tubing, it was pulling the belts kind of left and right off the Hans device that has to fit underneath those shoulder belts. So that was the reasoning for the ruling. Obviously, the lap belt isn't affected by that.
I would love to explore that concept of preparing for a race like the Rolex 24. Sit in a meeting with the Ganassi boys, Corvette Racing, a team like that that tries to think of every possible hypothetical circumstance and then figure out how to get out of it as efficiently as possible. Great Motorsports Classic and the first race of the year calls for photo ops. And this was a very special one indeed on Friday, as past champions from every form of motorsport in this year's field gathered together to be photographed for the record here at the 53rd Rolex 24. Pretty impressive group. Here's a look at the number of drivers and the very top flight victories. 22 former overall winners of the Rolex 24, 14 from the Sailor 6 Hours of the Glen, 5 from Petit Le Mans, 4 Sebring, 3 Indianapolis 500 champions, 1 former winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and of course Jamie McMurray, winner of the Daytona 500. Let's join Chris Neville now.
Bob, for so many years, Dorsey Schrader, part of our broadcast team this year. Dorsey, you're back behind the wheel. It's been almost 15 years since you drove here. What's it like to be back behind the wheel?
I love it. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work, too. My mind is really loving it. My body's really hating it.
How's everything going with the team?
Really good. You know, we had a lot of trouble early. I lost the brakes in the middle of the day yesterday and went luckily straight through the chicane down there in the bus stop and didn't hurt anything. But we had to replace a piece of brake line that was about 5 feet long. That took some time. We got down on laps. Everybody's happy. This is all we can really hope for, is to make daylight. We've done that. You know, we want a top 10 finish. We're hanging top right there. You know, and a finish, period. That can't say we've done that yet. But for us, that's a win. That's a huge win.
Since the last time you raced here, what's changed?
The aggression level. I mean, these cars have got to be driven at such a high aggression level entire race. You got to be protecting from the rear and attacking at the front. If you fall off that even a little bit, you just fall into the next pile of cars you don't want to be in. And they never back off, man. Everybody is hammer, hammer, hammer. And it's that's the really difference. I mean, we used to run hard in short spurts, you know, segments, and then coast for a while. No coast. This is all swimming.
Hey, you're going to get back behind the wheel in about an hour here, and when you were running Trans Am, you did some commentary in the car. You be able to talk to you on the radio.
Well, I don't know. I can't hardly breathe. It'd be in between gulps for air. You know, I've had fogger vising all night from, you know, I keep saying, don't hold your breath, you know, when you get to the scary part. Well, the whole damn thing's scary.
Well, Dorsey Schrader back behind the wheel here, and we're hoping to see him at Sebring, at Petit, Watkins Glen, and he was just telling me he might also do a truck race this year.
That's pretty cool to see Dorsey. There's those years of rigorous training that's really kept him in tip-top condition and gallons of Diet Coke.
Yeah,
As you can see, as he hoisted himself out of that car after the brake line failure. That's quite a lineup. The Highway to Help machine, raising awareness and funding for Alzheimer's research, sharing with Jim Pace, who's in the car right now, 8th place in prototype. Car owner Byron Dufour, David Hinton, and Doug Smith.
We've got to point out that there are many drivers who, because of the nature and allure, attraction of sports car racing, come and try and do the Daytona 24 hours in their mid-50s to 60s for the first time with a dubious level of talent. Dorsey, with his huge talent level and his history, is back here doing it. So really, you know, let's just say he's in his natural environment.
Tough as a piece of bad jerky. That's our Dorsey.
Honed, his reflexes honed in the International Training Center of the Keys.
And we should also give a shout out to Brian Johnson, lead singer for AC/DC, who's a big part of this charitable effort to go racing, a big vintage racer in his own right. Of course, the band is on tour, so he couldn't be here. He is a fun guy to spend time around. There's Brian with a few of his closest friends. Look at that. Imagine what it's like to strut out there in front of, God, there must be 80,000 people there. There's some candid footage. There's Brian on the right. Continue his efforts for the foundation. That was Malcolm Young on the left, who's a former player with the band, who suffers from Alzheimer's, living with it now for several years. And that is the inspiration for the band and the team in their efforts to fight Alzheimer's.
Well, I'm looking at the timing and scoring right now, and I tell you what, the 01 on the last lap just did a 40.2 with Sage Karam behind the wheel, so maybe they have got that 01 tuned up a little bit. Only 2/10 off the fastest lap of their race.
Matt Yoakum's there with the 90.
And Michael Valiente brings in that number 90 Visit Florida Corvette. Now they're 2 laps down, and they've been losing a lot of time on pit road. As you can see, Mike Rockenfeller is going to be getting in this car. Now they've been losing a lot of time on pit road, not because of the guys making the tire changes and fueling the car. Simply, they have to add water on almost every stop. That's where they've been losing most of their time. Otherwise, the handling of the car has not been bad.
Really struggled with the electronics at the test, couldn't get the traction control working. Did a quick shakedown about a week ago and felt that they'd be in good shape. It got here, still had problems with it, but just like the 10 car, they seem to have figured it out on the day. And a couple of laps, you get enough caution here, they could be back in the mix.
You noticed also Michael Valiente struggled a little bit getting out of the car. We talked earlier about how they're not allowed to have those retraction straps on the shoulder straps of the belts. I don't know if it was the belts or maybe the radial cord or
you can get caught up even with the buckle between your helmet and the harness devices. There's 100 ways to mess up the ingress or egress.
Michael's been feeling a bit under the weather this week. In fact, they had Guy Cosmo listed as a super sub here at the last minute. I'm not sure if Guy actually did any laps during the night or not, but he was on standby in case Michael couldn't do the amount of stints and put too much load on Rocky and Westy to carry the car to the finish.
Notice also left of your screen, right on the hub of the steering wheel, there's a little track map. As many laps as these guys turn in, it still helps if you have to come to the side of the racetrack, especially in the nighttime, to figure out where you are so you can tell the team.
Where are you? Oh, I don't know. That left before the right.
Exactly.
You know the one.
Or you take a spin, and then I have no idea where I am. Well, the service continues. It's a long stop for reasons Matt Yoakum described. Mike Rockenfeller ready to go to work. Here are your class leaders. We'll be back.
Michelin returned to the Rolex 24 at Daytona last year after a 13-year absence, and they had a lot of success, with Porsche winning the GTLM class and their technical partner teams logging 21,933 miles in the race. That may sound like a lot of miles, but Chris Baker, the director of Michelin Motorsports North America, says that Michelin still has a lot to learn here at Daytona. He notes that Michelin has logged over 1 million race miles at Le Mans in the past 17 years, and they still learn something new every time. Actually, one of the challenges for Michelin here at the Rolex 24 may be keeping its hyper-aggressive GTLM teams operating inside the Michelin-mandated tire pressure and camber guidelines. Baker says those limits are based on Michelin's data, experience, and overriding focus on safety. Some teams may think that if we say a 1, that we mean a 2, and so they will try a 3. But we can't have teams running outside our technical parameters, said Baker. And just to reinforce that, the Michelin technical directors will carry one of these camber gauges with them during every session and throughout the race.
Finely tuned devices, those camber gauges, as you go on board the number 3 Michelin-equipped Corvette.
Well, you know what race teams are like, Justin. Despite what your technical partner may tell you, if you can find lap time by doing something outside of those parameters, some of these teams will try it. So it's important that the tire manufacturers stay on top of what everyone's doing under their umbrella.
No.
Go ahead, Justin.
Sorry, I was just going to say enormous amount of data coming in for Michelin from every time they come here. Compared to Le Mans, where they have 1 million race miles. Remember, they turned that last year. Here, their data bank is not so great. So every pit stop is being analyzed every lap from every car. So Jan's certainly looking pretty confident on his set right now.
One of the things about Michelin Tire Company that always fascinated me was the diversity of products. You know who made the tires for the space shuttle? Michelin.
Well, they were probably well prepared after having done the Delta Wing in its first outing.
And they were just a little bit more expensive per set than these tires we're seeing on the track today.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you, there's some great movement throughout the field. We got battles all the way down. Right now, obviously riding on board with Tommy Milner. Corvette just really so well positioned at this stage of the race. It's not they can control the flow right now, Calvin, because obviously everybody else is going to try and upset that apple cart, but Corvette running 1-2 right at the front. But there's an amazing battle in GTD. You've got right now, sorry, we're following GTLM, but BMW bounced back from, well, that was nasty little incident in the bus stop, and it doesn't seem to have impaired their progress.
Yeah, I mean, Spengler got caught out there, was really pushing hard, tried to go inside a PC car on the entry at the bus stop, took a ride through the grass, tore off the rear bumper cover. But he got away with one there because he didn't really slow down enough to cut through the grass. He doesn't have probably the experience of some of the other guys who've run here for many years. You really need to slow it down when you're cutting through some of these grassy areas, and lucky he didn't tear the front splitter up as well. So he dodged a bit of a bullet. They did a quick cleanup of Senna, but I'll be curious to know how it's affected the handling. Here we see the other car that got in the wars in the middle of the night with John Edwards behind the wheel. He got tagged, and now he's behind the wheel again. So it's really taken them out of the running for a podium possibly. But we've got to remember, this is the big crown everyone wants to get here at Daytona. But we've also got a championship season, and points are very important.
I think you're about to see that the 22 is being set up by Kuno Whitmer behind in the Viper, and the Viper's really caught him up over the last few laps. Of course, Whitner got so much experience last year, over the last 2 years in that Viper Pro program.
Speaking of Porsches, the 912 GTLM class factory car in the hands of Jörg Bergmeister has now gone behind the wall with what we are told is a crankcase pressure alarm. So we'll see how long that takes him. Could be a long fix. Just don't know at this point.
Driver of the WeatherTech car, Shane Van Gisbergen, I mean, he's having a pretty active career all the way through, and anyone that's done well in Australian V8 supercars knows how to manhandle a big engine car around with a lot of movement in heavy traffic. So
you just saw the 90, Mike Rockenfeller weaving through that slower traffic while we were in commercial break. Rockenfeller had that long stop while the VisitFlorida.com team took care of those cooling issues Matt Yoakum described. He then went out on the racetrack and suddenly couldn't get the car to change gear. Came back in, and they fairly quickly got him back on track. So perhaps the 90 is okay. It's still shown in the top 5 in class. To Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, Patrick Dempsey finished on the podium here back in 2011. And Patrick, right now, you guys are in 4th place on the racetrack. Is there enough time to move up?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of time left in this race. That's what's so exciting about it. I mean, it's epic. It's been quite a race so far for us, but the guys have just done a tremendous job. On John, Bobby with the strategy. The crew have just worked so hard to battle back, you know, and the strategy to get us this close is phenomenal. Yeah, and Philip, Madison, all the guys have just been doing a great job, and it's great to be here. It's been quite a night.
Well, the team obviously has speed in the car. I've been watching the timing, but you guys are down a couple laps. What's been going on with the car throughout the night?
No, we've just been battling. The car's been really good. We just had some issues at the beginning of the race that caught us up. That's what's great about this race is you got to really overcome the obstacles, and you just can't give up when something gets really, insurmountable. You just got to dig deep and try to make it work. And the guys have done that as a team. We've done that, and that's what's so exciting and what I love about this sport. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, and here with Brumos, what they represent in motorsports, and to be out there running that really motivates everybody pretty deeply.
You've got some big races this year. You're going to go to Le Mans. You got a lot of great support for that. And this team really turned around mid-season last year. It really started clicking.
Yeah, it's a chemistry thing, I think. You got to get the right chemistry. You got to remember to have fun and really keep working at it at the same time. And I just got to take my hat off to Joe Foster, who really has taken care of me over the years. And it's unfortunate that we're not together this year, but I want to thank him and John and the guys, Beauty Rest certainly, and now Spider taking care of us. It's just so great to be here, to be a part of this sport, and to keep doing it, and to do what we're going to do this year in the WEC with Patrick Long and with Porsche and their support in developing me as a driver. And when you talk about Porsche, you talk about Hurley Haywood too, and his advice has really helped us survive this night.
Patrick Dempsey is still so dedicated to this sport. Matt?
Chris, an update on the 90, Mike Rockenfeller and the Visit Florida team. Now, Bob documented that the car came back down pit road for a quick stop after they had that long stop. And simply, as Calvin touched on earlier, the issue that they had earlier in the race is back. An electronics problem on the 90. Once again, no traction control.
Well, that electronics issue must run even deeper because we certainly saw Rocky struggling. He was flipping the paddles when we were on break and nothing was happening. So it's affecting the TC. It's also affecting the gear shifting as well. But if they've had to switch it off to get the shifting back, it's now going to mean they're not going to have the speed in the car. They're not going to have the power down ability in this race car, and that's going to hurt them in lap time.
Still 5th place, but 4 laps down to the front-running quartet of prototype cars, all basically on the same lap. As we get into the final 3 hours, 42 minutes and change here at Daytona.
And AJ Allmendinger just hopped out of the 60 car. AJ, that car sat on pole yesterday. You guys had some problems in the overnight hours. Car got into the wall. You're down a couple laps, but you just set the fastest lap in the race.
Yeah, it's a little heartbreaking right now. Obviously, there's 3.5 hours left, so we'll never give up. That's what's great about this race team. Just proud of everybody at Michael Shank Racing, and can't thank Enroque for all the development they do with this Ligier. The car is awesome, and Honda, just all the effort that in such a short amount of time this team's come together, and these people to help Mike, and to bring Tire Kingdom on for the first couple of races, and Aero Paint, everybody that's helped Mike. This car's fast, so it's a little heartbreaking because if we were on the lead lap, I think we'd really have something for him, but it's the 24-hour, man. This is what happens. So we got 3.5 hours to go. We'll keep fighting. Never know, maybe we'll still have a shot at it.
Well, the team's definitely got the speed, but the clock is running out. Bob, it sounds like you've got a special guest up there.
Indeed we do, Chris. Thanks. We are joined now in the booth by the president of Daytona International Speedway, Joey Chitwood. Joey, I know you're the guy with the fullest plate in the whole racetrack right now. Let's start with the crowd. We had that heavy weather on Friday, but it looks just packed down there.
Usually I don't have nice things to say about weathermen, but this time it played our way. Actually, Friday we were supposed to get rain all day. Came out a little bit the wind, but other than that, we had a great evening. I think right now we're going to have a great finish, and the weather's going to play a perfect part of it.
You also have a soft opening of this massive new Daytona Rising project. Tell us about that.
You know, for us, it's been a year and a half, a lot of hard work, got some great opportunities, 40,000 new seats available, escalators. In fact, I don't know if you guys saw it, we have more people sitting in the Turn 1 grandstand than I think in all of the 52 years prior to this combined. So many people enjoying it, and it was great to see them. I actually took some guests out there, and I think it just blew them away. You can see every inch of the road course from those new section of 40,000 seats, and when I think about what it took to build it, I mean, it took a lot back in '58. I think we're kind of walking in Big Bill's footsteps right now, and I think he'd be proud.
What about the crowd that you have here this weekend? When we had the merger between ALMS and Grand Am and established the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship at the end of 13, you know, you have your fans, you had your hardcore Grand Am fans, you had your hardcore ALMS fans who go to Sebring for their first event. Did you find that your fan base has since grown now that you're getting both together here in Florida?
You know, last year was a record-breaking year. It was the best crowd we'd ever had, and so our goal is to really kind of up it even more. And we think we have great infield entertainment. We make sure we have a good time. But now with the new stands, I think the chance to really grow the event outside of the racetrack is important. It's always been an infield event. And with that merger, I think we knocked it out of the park. But now it's our job to kind of take the next step. More fans, better amenities. I think we're going to continue to take this thing to new heights every year. And I will tell you, with the on-track race competition like we've seen it, I mean, there's no way we can't even do better.
I went up there with Ricky Carmichael, and I said, this is where you want to watch the finish of this race, see the whole track. One of your guys was belly aching and saying, I need a boss that's not in such good shape. They're happy the escalators are working because they said they used to follow you up and down those stairs.
So I've got to tell you, I've always offered the NASCAR guys a chance to visit. You know, Mike Helton said, Joey, tell me when the escalators are on and I'll join you then. He didn't want to climb the stairs, so we've had a lot of fun with it. I will tell you this. Never offer tours when you have to climb that many flights of stairs in July. I think there was a media opportunity. I do it 3 times, and I was done for the day at that point. But, I mean, it's really been a game changer. When you talk to the fans out there, in fact, we had one fan say, I might come back for your other racing events. And we don't get much crossover between sports car fans and NASCAR and motorcycle. But I think this venue now, with these amenities, we might see some more crossover, which would be great for all the disciplines of motorsport that we run.
That was going to be my question. I mean, the outside perception is people say, oh, they're all about NASCAR, they're all about the 500. I know that's not true. You guys get fired up for this race.
Oh, for us, this is a big deal. This is our first event of the 2015 season. Our staff works as hard for this event as we do the Daytona 500, for Supercross, you name it. We want to make sure that people enjoy it, and this is a tougher event to run than the 500. The infield is jam-packed, every square foot, and anytime you're trying to staff a 24-hour event, it can be pretty unique, but I'm really proud of the effort the team has put in. You know, the last 2-3 years, every year we've grown it, bigger and better. We have fun with it. I think our team really enjoys the uniqueness of the event. We'll take a break, get ready for NASCAR and stock car, but this was a great way to open up the new grandstands.
You talk about spectator amenities, and you've got a new one coming here to this facility when Daytona Rising is complete. Tommy mentioned the great Ricky Carmichael. Those two guys are members of the soon-to-be inducted class at the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America, currently located in Michigan, but headed here to Daytona.
Very excited about that. You know, you look at the disciplines that Hall of Fame honors, and it really goes hand in hand with Daytona and what we run. So the chance to actually have them be part of our opening in 2016, really excited. Ron Watson's doing a great job. Tommy, I'll be there. I always go up for that dinner. It's a fantastic dinner. One of the best awards you get, the Heroes of Horsepower Award. So really excited. But again, a lot of great things at Daytona. We are investing in the sport. We're adding more content, bringing a Hall of Fame, making sure the property looks good. I will tell you, we are going to continue to be the World Center of Racing for a very, very long time.
Top 2 cars are in, and next year, Joey, this race will have the honor of opening the entire new facility when Daytona Rising is complete.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, you think about all the great events that we do and the great names, the chance for this event to be our true opening. We're going to try and come up with some special things to make sure people celebrate and enjoy. But based on seeing the fans enjoy that section of grandstands already, I think we're going to add some content outside. Again, the goal is to any event we do, it's got to be big and bold. And so far, the Rolex 24 Daytona has been living up to that mantra.
Done a great job because the Daytona 500 has been the granddaddy for a long time. This is the granddaddy of sports car racing in America. The Supercross race is the one every single Supercross rider wants to win. Bike Week, you've done a nice job of building those into the big and bold.
You know, for us, the team, I'm not sure it likes me very much because if I see an off weekend, I think we can add an event, can't we? I mean, we should be working every weekend. This is what we do. But I tell you, I've got a great team. They drink the Kool-Aid with us. You don't have to motivate them. They're excited to really put on great events. And we just love it when the fans say, man, Daytona was cool. That's the goal. At the end of the day, no matter what event it is, if they leave here saying we had a good time, then we know we've done our job.
I've got to confess, we've got to go to break in just a moment, but I want you to know that we are not going quietly into that good night. If you look at the back of our announce booth here, you'll see that we're all leaving a little mementos of our own here in this booth where we've spent so much time over the years.
You know, I really like that. Some signatures up there. You know, you think about the stories that have happened here. By the way, I've usually been in race control, like when there's a pothole or we've blown up a jet dryer and watching the panic going on in the TV booth. So it'll be nice to take this box out of here and really start over for everyone.
Well, Joey, we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule here to chat with us. Good luck with Speed Weeks and the stock cars, with Bike Week, and then with the Midsummer Race, and then getting all the rest of the bricks and mortar and steel and glass in place here at DIS.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the time today, and we're going to have a great finish.
Here's a look at the NASCAR Speed Weeks schedule, most of which you'll see here on Fox Sports. Welcome back to wheel-to-wheel action here at the 53rd Rolex 24 at Daytona. Right of your screen, overall race leader Sage Karam for Ganassi Racing on cold tires. Had a pretty tricky outlap going there. It was overtaken by one of the Corvettes. Into the west hairpin.
Yeah, just try and keep that wheel rolling. You don't want it locked up for much more than he did. Otherwise, you are going to get a flat spot here. And you're trying to get on the gas now. It's go time, which just under 3.5 hours to go, Tommy. But that's the experience factor there. But he did a nice job, just as when he took the shortcut through the bus stop a little bit earlier in this race. He's doing the right thing. So the kid is fast and being pretty smart. As you can see, though, he's definitely pushing the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, a flat spot or worse. We've had a lot of cars get into the tires there. So, you know, it's a fine line between getting everything you can and having something you regret. He's been on just exactly the right side of that so far.
And with about, well, less than 3.5 hours now remaining in this race, you really cannot afford a misstep because, as Tommy mentioned earlier, you're now back timing from the end of the race, when you're going to pit, who you're going to have in the car, and you cannot afford a long stop or an extra stop if you flat spot.
Talk about back timing. On the last stop for the 02 car, Scott Dixon got in that car, and we believe he is still going to finish. That's going to be a 3-hour, 31-minute stint. Now, these guys are fit, but is a 3-hour, 30-minute Scott Dixon going to be as sharp as maybe a 2-hour Ford A or something?
3-hour, 30-minute stint at the end of 24 hours.
Right.
Well, he's clearly the guy they want to go to, and they would have asked him, "Are you okay?" So Larson only did a single, so you know, I'm guessing he could have gone deeper, but they made the decision. You know, the way this race is playing out with not a ton of yellows, they might want him in early just to try to not make sure they don't get too far behind those two lead cars.
Yeah, maybe they think consistent laps will open a gap and allow him to finish comfortably. When we came on the air at 7 a.m. Eastern time this morning, the ambient temperature was 39 degrees and it was dark. The sun just coming up. Now it's up to 52 degrees and bright sunshine, as you can see.
Watching this car down in the turn 1 brake zone when they've been around other traffic, they really have an edge there. I'm not sure if they're running maybe a little bit more downforce. They don't seem to be struggling for straight line speed, but definitely, you know, it's not all about downforce into the brake zones. You really need the compliance and the suspension work. And there's a very tricky brake zone, TK, down there into the turn 1-2 area as well.
We saw the one on board with Jordan Taylor with one hand in his lap, even when he went to the brakes, doing his down. So that just shows you how comfortable the car is there. There's that transition that we saw catch some guys out yesterday when it comes from the banking to the flat, upsetting the car. But that car has been rock solid there. I mean, it looks like the car that has the most pace. So it'll be very interesting to see how the fuel mileage plays out. You know, do people double stint? Do they do 2 tires? We've seen all kinds of different approaches, and now it's all going to count. They've been sort of testing, you know, test balloon stuff, but mistakes now are really hard to recover from, and if it goes green till the end, gaps become significant.
Angelelli behind the wheel of the 10 car right now. He's been really on it throughout the course of this race. He's got a 7.2 second lead over Christian Fittipaldi, who runs in 2nd spot in the Action Express number 5. The Ganassi cars sit 19 and 20 seconds behind the leader, respectively, with Sage Karam, youth over experience right now, with Dixon right behind him.
Let's look at Max the Axe. 10 years ago, Max Angelelli won this 24-hour event with team owner Wayne Taylor. If they win today, how many guys can say they won the Rolex 24 at Daytona twice with 2 generations of co-drivers from the same family?
Not many, and Max, even though he's problems here for one of the Astons again.
It's the 009 car. That's Chris Wilson, running 9th in the GT Daytona class.
Tell you what, this GTD class is going to be phenomenal this year. There's so many great cars that really on certain circuits can really perform. The Aston Martin, though, 5 poles in a row. That seems to work everywhere. Just all down to just executing and getting a win, which would be their first in the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship.
I'm wondering if it might be an electrical issue. While they sort that out, here's Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, up front in GTD, the Viper team just checked in with Bill Riley on what's been going on with the 93 car, and he said they have been executing perfect all night long. The only issue they had with that car was in the middle of the night. Paddle shifter seemed to get a little bit sticky, but that's an easy, quick change. They dropped a new steering wheel in there. No issues there, but as the sun came up and the temperatures are going up, they're also seeing the temperatures going up in that car. And that's something we see a lot with this race. All the sand and silt around here, all that oil and everything from the racetrack starting to pack these radiators in. So as we're getting to the last couple of hours of this race, that team's starting to watch the temperatures of that car.
As you see upper left of your screen, the box went from green to yellow. We have our 17th full course caution. There's the reason. Chris Wilson stranded in his Aston Martin Vantage. And this will be an opportunity for making up some laps. So the strategists are going to work. Obviously Wayne Taylor right there cogitating on the whole situation. We'll be back. Flag stretch. We now have our 17th full course caution. Running first in the GT Daytona class is the Viper of Kuno Wittner. Second, Shane Van Gisbergen in the number 2 22 Porsche. That will be shared this year by Cooper McNeil and Lee Keane, coming off a great year.
Yeah, the competition level was quite high last year. You put two series together and throw all these cars together and all these good teams together, you're going to have good racing, and that's what we saw last year.
We knew it was going to be kind of the class for the competition. It is the slowest class, but it's also the biggest class, and really it was more chances for more different people to win than any other class out there. We were able to, you know, take the fight for the championship and go for the wins. And Cooper, you know, handed over the car to me in a lot of great positions, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Lee and I get along really well. We're pretty much the same height and within a few pounds of each other too, so it makes it really easy for driver changes and very simple. We get along, and yeah, he's a good guy to work with.
You know, WeatherTech is a great American success story. They've got a new Super Bowl ad that's coming, but I just saw another one of their commercials, and it talks about all these experts saying, you don't want to build a factory in America. You don't want to do this. And what David McNeil has done with their laser, you know, measured and precision floor mats and other accessories, it's a really, really cool commercial. It talks about American manufacturing, American jobs, American know-how. It's pretty cool.
Alex Job Racing fields this car. Alex Job, 2 nights ago, was honored with the Bob Snodgrass Award for his career body of work, winning just about everything you can win in endurance sports car racing. 2 nights before that, the Road Racing Drivers Club here in the United States held its annual dinner here at Daytona, honoring Vic Elford with its Phil Hill Award, Bill Warner, co-creator of the Amelia Island Concours Elegance, with the Bob Aiken Trophy, and SCCA runner Jeremy Grenier with the Mark Donahue Trophy. The RRCA also has a website that you're going to want to check out. It's a nonprofit website called safeisfast.com, supported by Honda and the international governing body, the FIA. It has an absolute wealth of video tutorials about every aspect of racing, careers, sponsorship, driving techniques, and so forth. They also have a program they call Ask the Expert. And the current expert answering your questions is our old colleague Will Buxton, presenter for Formula One on the NBC family of networks. So check it out, safeisfast.com. It's been accessed from all over the world by over 100,000 aspiring motorsports professionals. Let's get down to Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, as the caution came out, lots of conversation down here at the 01. Just a bit ago, we talked to Scott Pruitt about the car and the speed, and he said, you know, the car was just a little bit tight, so they were going through some aerodynamic changes. They put a new nose on that car. Well, when this caution came out, they brought the old nose back, and team manager Mike O'Gara, Sage Karam on the radio with each other, talking about possibly going back to this other nose, because they said the car really hasn't gotten any better, and it's just slowed the car down with more downforce on there. But with this caution, they didn't come to pit lane. They said, let's just go and race a little bit longer. Let's not lose the track position. But this nose, this lower downforce nose, still sitting here in the pit box.
Yeah, and you see the one sitting there doesn't have the louvers. As we look at the 01, see that one right there, no louvers there on the front side of the upper fender. the one that Sage is driving, does have. And when you have the louvers in there, it allows the air to escape so it doesn't get the lift in the front end. So it's going to pin the nose a bit more, which is what they're trying to do, get rid of the understeer in the race car. But Sage is saying it's costing me too much there on the straightaway. And he's saying the car's not much better. But when I look at his lap time, it looked like they had got a little bit quicker, TK.
Well, it's hard to say. This is the to do chassis tweaks and minor is would have never been thought of years ago.
Right.
And so, but we've seen it every year for the last 4 or 5. It's a total shootout at the end. So you want to have your fast guy in, you want to have the car tuned up as much as you can. And so these are the ways you can tune it. They get sway bars in the car. It's fascinating to watch how they approach it.
It's going to be a really interesting final 3 hours, 15 minutes, and 30 seconds mark to the end of this 53rd edition of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Green flag when we return.
2015 marks the second season of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship, featuring some of the world's best drivers and many of its most famous manufacturers, all competing on the greatest circuits in North America. Sanctioned by IMSA, the TUDOR Championship consists of 4 classes of competition that reflect its American Le Mans and Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. The lead prototype category pairs the Daytona prototype from the Rolex series with the style of cars that formerly competed in the ALM SP2 class, as well as the revolutionary Delta Wing. Prototype challenge machines are nearly as fast as prototypes, but an emphasis on cost containment means everyone runs the same engine and chassis. GT Le Mans features many of the same drivers and manufacturers seen at the famed 24 Hours of Le Mans and is widely considered to be the best GT competition in the world. GT Daytona machines appear to be very similar, but have very few racing modifications, so they most closely resemble what you and I drive every day on the street.
Back at Daytona International Speedway, you're on board the Audi R8 V10, not an LM, that's a race car. It's a V10 Plus, 5.2 liter V10, 550 horsepower, beautiful car. Bondurant School instructor Austin Robeson driving it, as he will to the end of today's